everyone. Thank you all for joining us on Yachting International Radio's second day of the Sustainability Forum. I am thrilled for the fantastic response to yesterday's sessions and eager to continue exploring these important sustainability topics designed specifically for yacht crew professionals. Our aim is to deliver insightful educational content, share practical tips that crew members can apply in their daily lives, and support those who are passionate about driving the future of our industry towards sustainability. Here's a quick overview of today's session. We will have marine conservation organizations and beach cleanup with Greg Parrish, Brad Robertson, and Nicole Herbert, moderated by Norma Trees. Then, eco-friendly cleaning products for yachts with Keith Kirby and Leah Tennant, moderated by Hugo Ortega. Following, sustainable and eco-friendly clothing with Lauren Wardley, William Nicholson, and Julie Jørgensen, moderated by Hugo Ortega. And then sustainable and eco-friendly clothing, that one I already said, and industry updates in marine sustainability with Camilo Lopez, moderated by me, Andrea Tagliaferra. If you have any questions, please submit them as comments on your social media platforms you're tuning in from, and we will do our best to answer as many as possible while allowing our speakers to share their insights they have prepared for you. So without further ado, let's dive into our first session on marine conservation, organizations, and beach cleanups. Discover the crucial role of yacht crews in marine conservation and beach cleanups. Learn about conservation issues, effective beach cleanup strategies, and collaborations with organizations. Attendees will gain practical insights, explore case studies, and find actionable ways to integrate environmental practices into their operations for healthier oceans and cleaner coastlines. So I'm bringing in everyone from that from that session.
Hey everyone, just pouring the tea.
Good morning. Andrea, are we on?
We are.
Great. Well, I guess that means we need to get started. Good morning, everyone. I am so pleased to join again the second day of the Eco Yachting Sustainability Forum. Yesterday was already extremely exciting with great speakers and fantastic turnout of people from all over the world. So I'd like to start with once again congratulating the ladies from International Yachting Radio, Ria Rao, and also the lovely Andrea Tagliaferro, who has taken it upon herself to come up with this idea and organize this online seminar, which obviously has touched something that is of great interest to our community, or people would not be taking their vacation time in August to participate in this seminar. And I'm really pleased to be able to participate myself. My name is Norma Trees. I am a member of the board of directors of the International Seakeepers Society, which is mainly what I'm here to talk about, although I represent many other organizations in the yacht world as well. I've spent over 3 decades working in yachting, starting out as a yacht chef, and have worked since then as a journalist and a business development expert. And along the way, I have always participated in various associations that impact yachting positively. And most recently, having joined the board of the International Seakeepers Society, that has made the opportunity to impact conservation, education, and research on our oceans, working directly with yachts. Seakeepers Society was founded 26 years ago in Monaco. What we do is we place scientists on board yachts. In the last 26 years, we've done over 500 projects working with more than 200 yachts, many hundreds of crew, and we have a level of support across the industry from owners down to builders, captains, and crew that is really, really powerful. And we're very excited and proud of what we do. So I'm also thrilled to participate in this seminar to discuss the subjects that are really important of marine conservation. And we're supposed to be addressing the various groups and associations that participate in these subjects, as well as the capability of crew and the yachts themselves to participate in ocean research. So, before you spend the entire time listening to me, I would like to introduce our speakers. I'm going to start off with Brad Robertson. Brad, give us a wave. Brad's a friend of mine. He's originally from Australia, but he's in Palma de Mallorca, and he runs a couple of really fantastic groups called Ondine and Save the Med. So I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourself a little bit more at length, but let's talk about our other two speakers, and then we'll get into the meat of the subject. Greg Parrish, I just met today. He's coming to us from Victoria, BC, and he runs the Victoria International Marina, and just told me that he's involved with Super Yachts Canada, and he works for an owner that's extremely eco-conscious. So Greg is going to have a lot of really exciting things to tell us about in a completely different geographical area than Brad and myself. So again, I think that's a real tribute to what the girls have organized with this seminar, to have this caliber and diversity of speakers. Nicole Ebert. Good morning, Nicole.
Good morning.
Nicole has just joined us here from the Ocean Legacy, and since you're replacing another person, I'm going to leave it up to you to introduce yourself. So with no further ado, Nicole, why don't you tell us about yourself and the Ocean Legacy and what you do?
Sure. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Nicole Ebert. I've been working with Ocean Legacy Foundation since 2021 as part of, I joined the team as part of the Clean Coast, Clean Waters initiative, which is a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about was kind of brought forward from that funding pot and funding stream, which came through the Ministry of Environment 3 or 4 years ago. And Ocean Legacy has an EPIC mission, EPIC standing for Education, Policy, Infrastructure, and Cleanups. And that's our 4-pillar approach to combating the plastic pollution emergency response.
Now, wait a second, Nicole. I love that. You say that EPIC stands for, I want to write this down.
So it's
Education, Policy,
and Advocacy, Infrastructure, and Cleanups.
Advocacy, infrastructure, and cleanups. Okay, yeah. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, and so we are currently the only recycler of marine debris and fishing industry materials in Canada.
That's very surprising considering the size of Canada and considering your vast coastlines and the amount of fishing that you do. Do you think that you are able to represent the vast amount of ocean front that you have? I'm very surprised to hear that, actually.
We are often inundated by materials and debris, but we have a very dedicated team of people who are both working, hands-on in our recycling facility on the ocean, and as well as in the innovation center to really come up to solutions for these hard to handle materials. And so, at this time we have our main facilities in Richmond, right at Steveston Harbor, which makes a lot of sense because that itself is a marine sector hub. And then we have ocean plastic depots sprinkled across the province, which are kind of staging areas where groups and cleanup advocates and industry members can bring materials to be processed that eventually make their way to Richmond. And last year we actually started and expanded into Atlantic Coast. So we've created a pre-processing and sorting facility there with a bunch of different partners and cleanup groups. So it's definitely, we are in a great period of growth and evolution. And there's such a huge problem. And it's really, I know for myself, when I joined Ocean Legacy, I had no idea. I grew up in BC and I was used to seeing these beautiful, pristine coastlines. And you go just a little bit further north or a little bit further west, and you just hit these beaches where there's just so many, just so much pollution and so much just horrible stuff out there that puts whales and the marine environment at risk. So it's been really incredible to see how much material we've moved off those beaches. And we have so many great partners that we work with. But yeah, it's definitely one of the lesser known things about BC because it has such an amazing reputation for its incredible coastlines.
Oh, it does. I think so many of us are really big fans of that entire cruising area, and we're going to talk about that a little bit too. But I'd like to ask you, Nicole, do you do any of your a gathering of materials on board vessels?
Yes, that's actually that's how Ocean Legacy started was through vessel work. So we initially were working with an icebreaker. It wasn't commercialized. This was back when Ocean Legacy was really like a volunteer organization. Just a lot of people doing stuff because they saw that there was a problem and wanted to get out there and do something about it. And now we have a proper tug, and we work with barge operators. We also have helicopter operations, and we've even done flood response and river cleanups as well. So we kind of have a quite a different, depending on what kind of landscape we're working on, it could be a different approach. We also do lots of, just drop in by foot. But vessels are definitely the primary way that we get around, especially in those hard to reach areas. Brooks Peninsula, for example, on the West Coast, you got to definitely get a vessel to get out there. Yeah, it's a big part. So it's, and when we say vessels, we have a large tug, but then we're mobilizing smaller boats. We don't have any yachts, so it's not quite as glamorous out there. But there are a lot of amazing organizations who are working closely with us and alongside us, and as part of the Clean Coast Initiative, who are also using vessels.
My goodness, Nicole, what a story you have to tell. And considering that you've been doing this for a relatively short amount of time, I'd say great congratulations to you. And one of the subjects that we're discussing today is collaboration. So I think it's very interesting that although someone like myself, who has been basically, deeply entrenched in the yacht world and, what surrounds us, to hear that there are other people involved in the same subjects and working in maritime in general. And sounds like you've been extremely effective, Nicole. So that's great. And, as part of this conversation, maybe we can figure out a way to bring you some more yachts to help you with your great ambitious things. But, while we're talking about Canada and the fantastic things that you're doing up there in BC, I think this is a good segue for us to hear a little bit more about Greg Parrish from Victoria International Marina, who also represents Super Yacht Canada. So, Greg, now that you know what your neighbor Nicole is doing, why don't you tell us a little bit about your activities at the Victoria International Marina, which, by the way, I'd love to visit sometime. I'm a huge fan of Victoria. So please tell us what you're doing. And I know that you have a very special emphasis on being eco-conscious there.
Yeah, thank you.
Your turn.
But we're on Vancouver Island, which is confusing. And we know the Ocean Legacy since our inception when we were building the marina in 2017. So we've been actually co-founded something with Chloe and Ocean Legacy, which is Future Oceans International, because we built the largest marina around for super yachts from the ground up. And we did it on contaminated land in a harbor that's been literally crapping on itself for hundreds of years. So when we cleaned up, we definitely noticed that life was coming back to the marina, which was unexpected. So we were designed and built by Craig Norris, our CEO, as an environmental scientist, but we were forced to be eco from the beginning. Birds started coming back, animals were all around us, and we cleaned up an industrial site. So it was really cool to make that kind of our niche and our angle. So being the only super yacht complex on the West Coast of North America, we just harness what we are. And so when vessels come to us, we want to share what we have. And when people look over the side of the dock, they're impressed with what's there.
Well, surrounded by water as you are.
What's going to happen as you go north? It gets
sorry, you keep breaking up. I'm sorry.
Awesome.
I thought you were done.
No, I was going to say it's just a really awesome opportunity to just use this complex and our influence to start a new narrative for yachting, because you're coming to a new location. Let's share the story. And so that's why we want to be as eco as possible. And we got just so many studies on the go. So if I'm cut off, if I lagged out, sorry.
That's no
I've been-
problem. I'm fascinated by your story. And as someone that's been involved in marina development, I helped build Marina Port Vale in Barcelona, which was also conceived to be ecologically friendly in as many ways as possible, including gray and black water evacuation and safe delivery of fuel and a variety of other things. So since you've been in the marina building business, and we all know that vessels do end up having to go tie up ashore, can you give us a little bit about, you know, the different aspects since your marina is brand new, basically brand new, about what you have done in terms of the marina itself and your environment to promote eco-consciousness?
There's a bit of a cut out there, Norma, so I missed a bit of that. So an example of what we do can you just repeat the question, actually?
What I said was, can you give us some examples from your newly built marina and your beautiful region of specific examples of eco-conscious aspects that you built into your facility?
Yeah, actually, we really haven't fully told the world yet that we're the only all-electric marina ever built. So we have 60,000 volts underneath us, so much power that was put into an intertidal marina that our local energy company, BC Hydro, we had to rewrite the code because they're like, you want to do what? So we're set up for the future. We don't have any fuel. So if all the fleets right now were to go electric, we can, we could plug them in. So it's never been done before. So that set the bar really high. Of course, all the vessels are requiring fuel, and there's fuel docks and bunkering around us.
Well, you know, since we're also talking about organizations today, by the way, thank you for that.
We're actually starting a pilot project in the fall. We're going to be electric.
Greg,
it's cutting out. Sorry. I hope
we have a lot of delay. So I think before we try to talk to each other, we should always say like 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
1, 2, 3. I can hear
you. Sounds great. I love the idea of hearing something new about the yacht world and the maritime world. And I think an all-electric marina is a story that needs to be told. So, I work a lot as a journalist as well, Greg. So you and I need to speak separately about helping you spread the word about what you're doing up there. Now, we've already had Nicole and we've already had Greg tell us a little bit about what's going on in Canada. And I think it's really exciting and I can't wait to hear more. But since we are on both sides of the world and I'm kind of in the middle, I'd like to bring in the other side, which is the Mediterranean. So I'm here to introduce Brad Robertson from Ondine and Save the Med. And I will admit that I've been a big fan of Brad's and what he has done on his new home island of Mallorca. And he's from a much larger island, which is Australia. But Greg, as I've just said, being a fan of the amount of volunteer work that you have done and the efforts that you have put in, can you tell us a little bit about Save the Med and Ondine?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Norma, for a lovely introduction. My name is Brad Robertson. I am a salty old scuba diver. Which is what brought me into yachting in the beginning. When I arrived to Mallorca, I started a diving business and taught a lot of kids that had parents in yachting in the summer. Also worked as a private dive instructor on board yachts here in the Balearics, and was lucky enough to be flown all around the world to look after mainly families. I've taught yacht crew how to scuba dive. I've taught yacht crew how to lifeguard. So maybe there should be another organization called Save the Boss as well as Save the Med.
In light of what we've just had happen in the last couple of weeks, I'm not sure that's appropriate.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It didn't even come to mind. Comment made, foot in mouth already. Fantastic. No, my introduction to yachting was very, very pleasant. It was from the peripheries, and through that business work that I was doing when I first started here, I started Ondine. Norma, you'll be very, very sad to hear that Ondine doesn't exist anymore.
No.
It evolved into Save the Med. And I closed my business and to focus 100% on this. And this was a decision I made probably about 8 years ago. And the two key people that helped me decide to chase my heart or chase money were my two children. Bank account's not as comfortable as it used to be, but the heart's much fuller. So now I run Save the Med. I'm the president and co-founder of Save the Med Foundation based here in Mallorca. Our vision is really, really simple, a healthy Mediterranean basin. Our mission is a regeneration within the Mediterranean basin through a holistic and integrative approach, contributing to the re-evolution of local communities into aware and active custodians. So this is the result of 13 years, Norma. I would say one of our biggest successes here in Mallorca is contributing to the marine protected area of Sa Dragoneta. And that was one of the first projects we started back in 2011, which is quite a mean feat for an organisation that had no budget, no structure, and no sign of any income. And then over time, we added plastics into our target. So it evolved from marine protected areas and plastics. We've just finished our first official strategy, which will be very exciting to share with the yachting community, because one of the pillars in this strategy, Norma, is collaboration. And it's something that I've seen produce much more than you think could be produced when people are genuinely working together and organisations are working together. But taking the time, one of the things that I've learned, and I do see this in yachting because it's quite a small industry, and the communities that are there, there's a lot of respect between individuals, there's a lot of trust. And I think having this trust and respect at the forefront of these collaborative approaches, you can really move mountains. So we, like I said, we work on MPAs, we help design them, we help implement them. We also have education programs on plastics. Another sort of pioneering aspect of Save the Med is our HAPPY project. And that's HAPI, stands for Honest Alternates to Plastics Index. Now, it was probably about 9 years ago, I was thinking, how can we give people an alternate to single-use plastics? There was a lot of organisations putting out lists of alternates. And, you know, the market changes so quickly. It's also very, very hard to decipher whether people are telling the truth about a product or not. So instead of putting a list together that we thought was a sensible list of alternates, we designed over a period of 8 years an index. And what this index does is allows the consumer, whether that's an individual, a business, maybe a marina, a yacht, a yachting company, to assess their single-use plastic usage, look for alternates. And maybe you have 4 alternates, for example, one problem product, you put the same data set into the index from the problem product, it spits out a number from 0 to 10, 0 being the least amount of impact, 10 being the most amount of impact, and you can do that for all the others. So this is why we call them honest alternates. It keeps people honest, which in a competitive market is not always the case. So I like to refer to this as an anti-greenwashing calculator, which really puts the power of choice back into the consumer's hands.
Well, I think that's very interesting, Brad, because even though all of us here, and I think all of our listeners, are definitely interested in and want to contribute to conservation in any way that we can. But when you drill down into statistics, I think that is an approach that works with an awful lot of people because, as you said, greenwashing is something that we are, all of us, faced with. I had someone, when I announced that I was participating in this seminar, said to me, "I'll be happy to watch as long as you promise me that you don't use that nasty S word," which he said was sustainability, because he felt that it was overused, which I thought was interesting. But Brad, you used some words in our introduction, which I really, really liked. And I want to make sure that we can all emphasize something that I'm sure that we all share, which is passion, love, and determination. I think that's what it really takes in order to, make these really ambitious actions resonate not only with all of us who are thinking, along the same way, singing from the same hymnal. We're all able, with passion, love, and determination, to spread our word in better ways. Now, with Seakeepers Society, as I told you from the beginning, we do a lot of different types of activities. We do most of our activities on board yachts. That's where we've done our over 500 missions. We work together with an unbelievable array of incredibly accomplished associations, including Brad. Last year, you probably remember, we sent a couple of our representatives out to Palma and did one of what I call our base activities. We participate in Seabed 2030 project, which is doing bathymetric data collection on board ships all over the world. We're actually the largest group contributing to that international effort. We are a trusted node. We do a lot of education for children. We have educated over 2,000 children just in the last couple of years, which I think is pretty incredible. And another one of our baseline operations is something that I think probably all of us here on this panel are involved with, and that is beach cleanups. There's something that is tremendously inspiring about something that's so simple. And as I said, Seakeepers sent a couple of people to Mallorca last year, and we participated in kind of an island-wide beach cleanup where our responsibility as Seakeepers was to bring in as many yacht crew to participate. And I think that was a big success. But since Brad was talking about statistics and helping people understand what you do and what they do through statistics, I just gathered these today. So I thought you might be interested to know that in the last year, Seakeepers, not in the last year, in the last 5 years, has organized 193 beach cleanups, which have gathered over 6,400 volunteers. We've collected over 1,200 extra large size bags of trash, and that has accumulated to over 26,000 pounds of material. And that is our, as I said, our kind of base level community involvement activity, something that we find tremendously inspirational for yacht crew to participate in. And we organize these all over the world for yacht crew to participate in. And as I said, Brad, I remember when I met you, that was something that was brand new, doing beach cleanup. So can you tell us a little bit about the history of, literally hands-on cleanup and what that does for your groups and your people on your island?
Yeah, Norma, the beach cleans are a little bit of a distant memory these days. We do have our Dos Manos program, which we run in the schools, 2 hands, and that has a beach cleaning element to it. But when we did start 13 years ago, Norma, it was the yachting industry that kickstarted this organisation. There was people like Janusz from Roma, Muddy at Roma, and a few other people that were really, really key people. I mean, Fiona Bruce from Doyle Sales, she's still on the board of directors, and a few other yachting big names. But it was what amazed me back in the day, and we'd do a beach clean and maybe get 100 people turn up, was the absolute joy and elation on these people's faces. And I'm like, wow, how do they get so happy picking up other people's stuff, other people's rubbish? And this whole thing was really the beginning of understanding how important communities are, and how important that actions like the beach cleans are to raise awareness and get people thinking about things. Because when people see it from the outside, they might hear it on the radio or see it on the telly or online. It doesn't give that substance. And when they're there and they're picking up what they think is a lollipop stick but it's actually a cotton bud stick that somebody's cleaned their ear and thrown into the toilet, and it's gone down through all the tubes and out into the sea. That story really, really hits. So the beach cleans, I do miss them, but again, we were really pioneers here in Mallorca when it comes to plastics. And then other organisations grew and they started to do similar things. And I think with the issues that we have, climate change being the umbrella issue and everything else falling underneath it, for me to continue doing the same thing when others were doing it already didn't make a lot of sense. There was value to add in other areas of the field. So now we concentrate more on the plastics in an upstream sense, in regards to trying to stop the plastic from getting there in the first place. The end of the day as well, and what's really, really important for all of the work that we do at Save the Med is not to put the blame on the consumer, because we all of us have enough stress and enough responsibility on a day-to-day. We don't need to be blamed for a problem that's actually caused by large corporations and governments not performing properly. And if governments and corporations didn't produce this material in the first place, we wouldn't have the issue. From my understanding, Norma, the term carbon footprint actually came from the oil companies to throw it back on the individual.
Well, there's so many issues that are involved, and we all know that it's extremely controversial to discuss climate change. There are still people that don't believe in it, but what I'm focused on are practical applications of what we can all do as individuals, and personally what we can do as part of the yachting industry to have a more educational overview of what we can contribute and how we can pass the message along. And obviously, Brad, you're a pioneer. You started in this really, really early. And I think it's fantastic that you've been able to grow your association. As I said, at Seakeepers, we consider beach cleanups and education of youth as kind of foundational columns of what we do. And then that leads on to the higher level activities that we're able to do on board yachts, putting scientists on board yachts, bringing scientists to sensitive areas where they can contribute their knowledge and gather research and so on. So I think it's really amazing and a real tribute that you've been able to move on and do even more important things. But I'd like to know from Greg and also Nicole, from a dos manos point of view. I love that expression, by the way, Brad. Can any of you make any comments about any hands-on direct participation events that you participate in? Greg, Brad, did you have one more thing?
No, all I wanted to say was I just wanted to clarify or not correct, but raise a point about what you just said about Save the Med going on to more important things. I don't think we're doing more important things. I think we're doing other things that contribute to and complement things like beach cleans. I think they're all as equally as important. And I just wanted to clarify that because I didn't sit totally comfortably with that one.
No, obviously I agree with you, Brad. And I don't mean to say that, what you started out as your base and what you were able to explain to so many people as being important, that what you're doing now is more or less important. That was a foundational pillar for you.
Absolutely.
And you've really done a fantastic job of getting the point across. So, Greg, at your facility, do you do dos manos, hands-on type of activities with your guests?
Yeah, when you build the biggest marina around in a city, the tide goes in, tide goes out, and we see the debris that sticks in our fingers. So we daily pick up all the large debris and everything that we can. And being in British Columbia, like Nicole can attest to this, that we have a lot of biomass. So you'll see stuff like lots of styrofoam, stuff that you can't actually pick up the big stuff. We remove it, and then we do our best. And then the real experts, and you cannot contest what Ocean Legacy does, like they're the OG on our coast. So we even founded a foundation with them called Future Oceans International. So the big stuff we can pick up, it's a big issue, but we really got concerned about clothing and the microfibers that go through the wash cycle that we can't touch. So we're working with the University of Victoria to develop a system to detect microplastics in the water, and then they want to eat it with enzymes. I'm not sure how that really works, but they're scientists. So really, we just pick up what we can see, and then we encourage our clients as they go up the coast to pick up whatever they can. And we need to talk to Ocean Legacy about your depots up the coast, because 3 yachters yesterday actually said on the way down, they could pick stuff up and tow it and or put it on their deck. So again, collaborations. We got the right mix, I got the toys to play with, and we can influence our clients to get into it. And they really do. Like, they love, now that once you pay attention to debris, you seek it out on the beach.
Well, as Brad said, it's amazing how
it's like you can't stop looking for it. And it's kind of interesting how people behave.
I'm sorry, Greg. We continue
3.
to have maybe we need to do like a cutoff thing. Now you know when you're done, right? But Brad mentioned how inspiring it is for people and the reaction they have to doing something so simple.
Yeah.
And I can't help but go back to what you said at the beginning, Greg. And I'm so personally inspired by an all-electric marina. And I have to say, I'm sorry I didn't know more about it before, but I can't wait to come up and visit. I mean, that sounds so forward thinking, and
yeah.
I hope that we see more of that in the future. And the fact that you are able to actually expand inspiration and encourage your guests to participate in those types of activities further afield from your own facility is really a wonderful thing. And I applaud you for doing that. And as I said, I can't wait to have a chance to go up and see that. Now, you mentioned working together with Ocean Legacy. And Nicole, when I was reading through your biography and a little bit more about Ocean Legacy, I was very interested that you go kind of across the gamut. You start at the beginning of gathering plastics and detritus from our oceans and coastal regions. And then tell me, you take it all the way through the end of the process. What do you do with everything you collect?
Right. So everything that gets collected either by Ocean Legacy or other groups, like another notable one that I can mention is like the Small Ship Tourism Operators Association. We work with Rugged Coast Research Society. We're involved with Surf Rider, which has an international and local chapter. There's so many great groups out there doing this kind of work. And so we receive materials from other cleanup groups at our depots, as well as cleanup materials ourselves. And so everything comes back to our facility in Steveston Harbor, which we have named the Plastic Pollution Emergency Response Facility. And from there, we work.
And what's the acronym for that?
It's PERF, PPERRF.
I have a whole plate full of new acronyms today.
Yeah, and it's so that's based in Steveston Harbor. We just moved there I think 2 years ago, right shortly after I started. And so we work with third-party recyclers from our Steveston location. So materials that we don't recycle in-house, like styrofoam, tires, things like that, we will send off to third-party recyclers. When you said the S word earlier, I assumed you were talking about styrofoam, not sustainability, but that's a pretty bad one. And then, the materials that we can recycle, we process in-house. So for us, that means that we're sorting things. We do a lot of sorting in the field. That's some of the work that we do is really training these groups and like, how do you properly categorize, identify, and sort materials? So when we're out in the field, we're using different like large super sacks to isolate materials. And so we have everything, we'll isolate buoys and floats. We don't process floats in-house, but we do try to upcycle a lot of material. We also work with artists who often come in and we'll try to grab things. If film designers will come in and try to get materials from us. So then we'll separate things like ropes and netting, different materials, different types of hard plastics. So just hard plastic fragments, which is something you find a lot of as well. So once we've got our materials isolated, we run it through a processing and downsizing, which involves different wash lines. It's very heavy industrial. So it's like different wash lines, different shredders, different things that take things down to a smaller granulate. And from there, we can actually melt it. And so it goes through an extruding process where it's melted and turned into a recycled plastic pellet. So we've been working with different businesses to get this post-consumer recycled pellet back into the market to really explore how to close the circular, like to create a closed loop in terms of the circular economy. So finding solutions is hard to manage material that didn't have what we call end of life recycling options. And right now we have our materials being incorporated into a lot of different types of products. So it's actually, we call it legacy plastic. So if you look online on our website, legacy plastic, you can see the different types of material. There's a really beautiful color that comes out when you mix all these different types of ropes, which we call ocean green. And then you have everything from like black to orange. We've also been working with a company in Alberta to actually create lumber. So we've designed benches and outdoor furniture. We're working with some of the regional districts to build compost bins that are going to be put out into the community for people to use for their compost, planters. It's really incredible to see the way that you can actually reintegrate these materials back into new materials. And really, of course, we're looking, when we're working with partners, we're looking for materials that are durable, that have a long lifetime, that are not single use. Speaking of clothing, we worked with Anion last year to create, they created a button out of oyster baskets collected near Denman Island. So they've got a shirt called the Denman Island collection now, which features our buttons. So people are really, it takes a lot of work to integrate a new material into a manufacturing process, which has been a bit of an obstacle for our plastic sales. But once people really commit to exploring that, the sky's the limit, and it's really wonderful to see these products come back to us. It just like the staff, and just seeing the staff at the office going like, oh wow, this was a buoy and now this is really incredible. So that's a little bit of the kind of the full cycle. And then we also are developing a lab. So what we're really trying to also do is decentralize access for people who want to incorporate materials but have questions or don't have the resources to be able to test their materials or our materials or how they interact with other stuff that they're using. So we've now also innovated a lab within our facility.
Right on.
My goodness, Nicole,
Yes.
that was all so very interesting. And what I am taking away from this discussion with all of you guys, and by the way, what a fantastic panel. This is really, really interesting. I love the geographical diversity. The other thing I really like is that we have been discussing solutions for inspiring people. And we've been talking about activities that are kind of micro, beach cleanups and, taking things, and then all the way to what Nicole was just describing. And that is about as macro as it gets. You have your own manufacturing facility. You are working with end products to go to other users to give them a completely new, different life. I mean, that is taking that circle and really making it complete. And I find this discussion so interesting because of that. Now, one of the things that, I'm a yachty. Yacht crew is my specialty. And one thing that we find as seakeepers, and I've always found as a representative and advocate for yacht crew, is that they thrive on inspiration. They thrive on the positivity of being able to do something, to use their jobs and their vessels and their careers to influence the health of Mother Oceans. And I think all three of you have mentioned some of those things, but are there any specific recent activities that you've participated in that you think are particularly good examples of bringing your theory together with your people? Greg, I guess where you are on Vancouver Island in your marina, given the ethos you have of eco-consciousness, you might have a couple of great stories. Besides, I love sending your yachts afar and them coming back with trash that you can give to Nicole. But what else have you done that you feel inspires your guests and your crew?
We do a lot of like ecological studies just because of the curiosity of what's happening. But what's most exciting is our work with local University of Victoria. So actually, Chloe Dubuis from Ocean Legacy, she's going to Antarctica in 2025 with Sylvia Earle, and she needs to do a deep water water column sampler. So we hooked her up with Roper Industries, which is working with us through water column sampling, and they're going to send down 2 systems for her to do some deep water sampling for microplastics. And then the other division of UVic has come up with that handheld device that can actually show you what microplastics are in your water within 5 minutes with no laboratory. It'll take your, they use peptides that'll connect to a certain type of plastics. It'll coordinate it and show you what you have. So those are just really cool things that are coming out of our local university. And I'm not sure, Norma, if you know, but we work with seakeepers. So we've done a lot of seakeeper stuff in the past.
Mm-hmm.
We did a humpback vocal whale study. But again, it's back to just using our facility and our influence, because everyone wants to be in this sexy world of yachting. So let's use that. And let's bring people in. And then me being the networker, let's try and figure out who they need to meet to do really cool things. So every day there's something cool coming up, and it's just exciting. And I often get accused of being in the weeds and it doesn't make sense, but then it will make sense later. And in the end, our clients love it. You know, they're here for a reason. So, but back to your question, the most recent things are, working with the university to get down to hardcore science and give the tools to people like Ocean Legacy to do the work they need.
I think that's great. I am truly amazed and inspired by listening to all of your stories. Brad, you have so many of them. Tell us a little bit about what Save the Med is doing, working directly with people and offering the kind of inspiration I know you do.
Wow, what a question. How long have we got left, Norma?
Not long.
No. So one of the things that I need to is one of the reasons I would love to come back into the industry as a representative from Save the Med and talk to the local community, the local yachting community about marine stewardship. And marine stewardship is a relatively new science. People might know it a similar model as custody or land-based custody, where landowners would work together to save certain species. It would maybe be 2 or 3 landowners, one target species, local government, and they all work together to bring that species back from potential extinction. Lots of great examples of this on land all around the world. But when you look at the stakeholders involved in that scenario, there's the landowners, the government, and the NGO. When you look at the sea and the stakeholders involved in the usage of the sea, and nobody owns the sea as such, so we're all using the same parts of it, it means that the number of stakeholders is almost limitless. So we've been rolling out a stewardship program in Andratch, which is the local council area in front of Dragonetta, the marine protected area that we helped design and implement. And it's all about, this goes back to our mission and having local communities become active and aware custodians, is to bring this sense of not ownership in the way that we think about ownership today, but ownership in the natural environment, that we are actually part of it. And the same way that we care for ourselves, we want to care for the environment that we're in. And we've 5 years we've been running a program out of Andratch, probably the last 2.5 out of Poyensa. And the yachting industry is a key local community, and there's things like buoys, the management of buoys. The yachts are always calling out for better fields of buoys where they don't have to drop their anchors. The Mediterranean, the hottest word in the Mediterranean at the moment is Posidonia. We don't have any direct projects related to Posidonia. There are plenty of people out there working on it. But one of the really amazing and inspiring stories is in St Elm. And for the yachties that know the southeast corner or the southwest corner of Majorca, where around Andratx, they'll know St Elm. Some beautiful restaurants, beautiful beach, and a little field of just this array of different types of buoys for small boats. And since our work has started there, we've managed to work with local families that have taken the lead in managing this field of buoys, and it's starting to become official. So getting local community to, one, identify what the issues are for them, and this is also something I learned over the years, Norma, is you don't assume what a local community has at the top of their list of things that are important to them. So we don't go into these areas flying our flags and saying, hey, look how good Save the Med is. We work very much like mycelium. We're very much underground. We're supporting what needs to be supported. We're joining dots. Greg, networker, I would use the word weaver in my field, and weaving all this together. So yeah, local communities are right at the forefront of everything that we're doing, and which is a little bit contradictory to the name that we hold, Save the Med. It's not Save St Elm or Save Mallorca. It is actually the entire Med. So to fulfill that name, included in our strategy is how we work with other organisations around the Mediterranean, by working on local issues with local people in local ways, because the Mediterranean has 21 different countries, different languages, different ways of thinking, different levels of corruption, all these differences. And you can't blanket this with one solution. It needs to be done locally. And I really think that the yachting industry can help massively here in the Balearic Islands, the yachts that come here, the business owners that are here, but also the yachts that are visiting other locations. This is a network between people doing good things that I think we should all really get behind. I'd love to see the yachting industry as a whole step up a little bit more into this field. The resources are there, the abilities are there. I know the restrictions. I know a little bit of the details, but I think if we can band together, Nicole, Greg, yourself, Norma, myself, there's more out there, and really start rattling some trees or shaking some trees, rattling some cages, very respectfully, very politely, with a smile on your face, I think we can get a lot more done. But
I agree, so maybe we should be hoisting our sails together in order to chart a course towards greater stewardship for our oceans. And in all honesty, I say that with a smile on my face, but I think that with the kind of people that we have on this panel, not to mention the support of organizations like the International Yachting Radio, with what Andrea and her people are doing, with all of the amazing speakers that they have had for the last 2 days, with the interest and participation of the public, I think that we are getting somewhere and making things happen, Brad. And I hope you feel that too. And definitely the example that you mentioned about Posidonia grass, I'm sure that both Greg and Nicole are aware of that is the number one ecological Mediterranean Sea hot topic, which is that if yachts drop their anchors on Posidonia grass, that means that there's less grass, which means that there's less area for other plants to grow and fish to hide and everything else. And so as a result, across the Med, the growth of large and small buoy moorings has been phenomenal. And that has taken a relatively short amount of time. And I'd like to say that yachting has been a leader in that, but I'd say maybe we've been more of a contributor, but we've definitely been benefactors, because I think we all feel better when we know that we can safely moor our yacht in a beautiful area of clear water and not do any damage to the ocean bottoms. And I think you would agree with that.
Interest us.
That's great example.
And anyone listening, I'd love to talk to you, Brad, about that, because we need to manage our traffic in our waters. Once you leave our marina, the infrastructure gets less and less. So
Yep.
where they're dropping anchor, like we need to educate them, like, don't do it here. There's a nursery of rockfish here. Don't, like, we really have a big interest in trying to get more invoice.
Man, I've been waiting for an excuse to come to BC for
Oh, we need it.
decades.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So talking about collaboration, I think just within our own panel and the
that's
four
much.
of us here, we have established the fact that obviously we all have things in common. We all of us share Brad's passion, love, and dedication. I'm definitely going to be keeping those three words together, Brad. Thank you for that. And I think that we've made great strides. I think it starts with a philosophical point of view, then it goes on to small actions, and it goes on to greater actions. And I think you all here are great examples of making these things happen. Now, I just want to mention we have a few people that have come in. We haven't had a lot of questions, but we've had some links to some groups that sound very interesting. And I have to get a little closer here because I'm not able. So, Nicole, you sent in a Legacy Plastics. I guess that's part of your Ocean Legacy organization.
Yeah, that's our plastic.
That part of it, I thought the manufacturing was pretty amazing. I mean, honestly, you have taken actions by people and turned them into an entire industry. And I think there's a lot of people that can learn a lot of lessons from that. So I personally can't wait to learn a little bit more by looking at Legacy Plastics. We also have Vancouver Island North. What does that say?
So it's Take the Pledge. It's the Live the Wild pledge. So you were asking for examples of how we've kind of had initiatives where we're doing cleanups and getting people out with their hands. This is a great example of one that was launched this year with a tourism association in Vancouver Island. So the idea is that anyone can go to a visitor center in Vancouver Island. They'll get a beautiful canvas bag that has like a lovely print. It says Live the Wild Pledge, and they can take the Wild Pledge, which means they're going out to a beach, they're filling their bag with any beach materials they find, and then we have different collection depots around Vancouver Island North. After they drop off a bag of material, they then get like a card that basically gives them discounts to a bunch of local businesses. So it's supporting local businesses, it's sharing knowledge about what the areas that they're in through their visits to the visitor center. It's being active and leaving no trace, and leaving the beaches better than they've come back. So this is a really exciting campaign that we've launched this year with, and just like, I think it's a really great example and model because it gives people the incentive, a place to take their material, and it gives them a little bit of education as well. And as Greg mentioned, like, once you start looking for debris, you can arrive at a beach and it can be completely pristine. And then you look under a log or behind a salal bush and you'll find just microplastics. So I think it also like helps and encourages people to have a bit more of an eye for some of the stuff that they would initially, when you approach a beach, think like, oh, it's perfect, it's pristine, it's fine. And then you dig a little deeper and there's actually quite a bit out there.
Well, I have to say that's another great story and a fantastic example. I mean, I think some of the things we've been discussing today have amazing opportunities to serve as examples and as inspiration to other people. The idea of being able to identify microplastics in the water, Greg, that is something that I think everybody would be interested to participate in. Brad, your dedication and your hard work from your home island of Palma and your determination to continue to work to save the Med is also always has been inspirational. And I'm telling you, I'm there to help Yacht Crew participate even more. And Nicole, I mean, honestly, what you guys are doing there is incredible. And to think that you've only done that in a very few short years. And again, what I've enjoyed about this conversation is that we've gone everywhere from Dos Manos, cleaning the beaches, inspiring people, and bringing smiles to their faces, all the way to taking this concept to a brand new manufacturing and end user. And using that, let's face it, we're all in business, right? So Greg, what you were talking about, I seem to feel like your eco-consciousness is part of your marketing. Nicole, obviously, what you are doing is amazing. And that's big business. And Brad, the way you've managed to involve so many different groups in making all this happen, it's been absolutely fascinating. I feel like we could sit here and talk about this for much longer, but unfortunately, we're going to have to finish our fantastic session. So, I'd say next time let's meet on Vancouver Island and bring people, or Palma, and bring all of us together and sit down and have a glass of wine and talk about this further, because all three of you, thank you so much. Greg Parrish, Brad Robertson, Nicole.
Thank you, Norma.
From the organizations that you represented. And once more, I want to congratulate and thank International Radio and Andrea Tagliaferro for bringing us together.
Thank you so much. And of course, Ria Rao, she just loves to be behind the scenes, making sure that everything is running smoothly and putting me in front of the camera. So she's also there. Thank you all so much. This was really, really amazing. Like Norma said, we could have done a whole forum on what you guys brought to the table. Also, thank you so much for all the links you sent. I will be adding them right after, because I'm the moderator of the next session. After my session, you will see them in the YouTube description. For those watching on YouTube, the on-demand video for the forum and the sessions will also live on YouTube, so I will gladly add them there. If you have other links that you think, other resources that you would like me to integrate, please send them over. This is, I think, amazing for anyone to continue with this conversation. So thanks again, and now I'm going to kick you guys out to continue with the forum.
Thanks, everybody. Been a great pleasure. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So everyone, right now we have that 2-minute break, but please come back since we're going on our next session, and you'll get some industry updates of how sustainability is continuing with the yachting industry. So, all right. I hope everyone was able to stretch out their legs. And now we continue with industry updates on marine sustainability. Let me bring on Camille and give you guys a brief intro. Hi, Camille. Thank you so much for joining the forum.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the invitation.
Before we head into what Camilla is doing in her company as well, let me tell you a little bit of what we're going to be learning right now. It is the industry updates and marine sustainability. In the session, you'll learn how to stay ahead of the curve with our comprehensive update on marine sustainability in the yachting industry. This is a session where we will dive into the latest advancements, regulations, and innovations driving sustainability practices within the marine sector. Joining me right now is Camille Lopez. She is the president and founder of HY Plug. Camille is very young. I'm not going to reveal her age because I want you to focus on everything that she has achieved. Is a determined and versatile professional with a passion for water sports and activities, graduating with a master's degree in international management from the International University of Monaco. She worked for years in the automotive industry, covering areas such as sales, marketing, and distribution. Her skills include strategy, supply chain management, and innovation entrepreneurship. An experienced navigator and keen writer, she's also involved in karting and motorsports. And I have to say that bio may seem long, but it does not cover everything else she has achieved, because if you go to her website, the company has racked up tons of achievements, certifications, and awards. But I'll let Camille bring that up. Can you tell us a little bit about your company and what are you guys doing?
Yes, sure. Thank you for this quite strong introduction. I will try my best after this. No, without kidding, basically, HighPlug have been a new project in my professional journey after this automotive parts. And basically, the aim was to think about setting up a new company by 2021. Am I focusing on what is existing currently on the markets, or am I looking further for the future technologies? And then I took the second option. So then keeping all the love for IC engines and transferring as well to like fuel cells technologies, as you have heard probably on the markets, and then going deeper for hydrogen topics, biofuels, biomethanol. So HighPlug is a consultancy currently specialized on those energies and working only for ports with bunkerings, or for shipyards for empowering topics such as engines and generators.
There's so many questions I have, of course, but let me start with, how do emerging technologies such as advancement in propulsion systems or energy efficient materials contribute to reducing the environmental impact of yachts?
So sticking to our sector, basically when we think about yacht pollution, often we're thinking about when we move the yacht. Basically, it's burning fuel, so it's rejecting CO2, NOx, and then we pollute this way. But being honest, it's not the only pollution. And even for many yachts and super yachts, they are polluting more when they're anchoring or at the port, not connected, not plugged, than when they're moving the boats. Some of them, they have a reputation about 80% hotel loads and 20% propulsion engine. So talking about pollution, basically each time guests are turning on the lights inside the boat, and then they need, of course, electricity, so power. If the boat is not plugged, then they are using generators. So taking the challenge from the beginning, any energy consumption on board, if not plugged, is coming from generators. And of course, to move the boat, even for example on hybrid system, some can be the batteries can be recharged by the main engine. So when you use the batteries, if it have been recharged by the main engine, okay, you don't burn anything, but you have done it earlier. Mm-hmm. So it's always a question of where do we estimate the start of pollution? And as HighPlug, we are looking at the entire value chain. So taking it from, can we maybe reduce the electricity consumption? Then we will need less load on the generators, then we are burning less fuel. That's the first mechanism, essential ones. And from these statements, we can replace, of course, the type of fuels we are burning. So the easiest advanced technologies currently is about keeping the engines we know, so generators and engine we know, the internal combustion engine, ICE, and only switching the fuel inside. Basically using, for example, HVO. Maybe some people have heard about it since the last 2 years. There were some conferences about it. It's like hydrotreated vegetable oils. So it's coming from natural resource. And then there is this treatment to make sure the engine can understand it's a fuel and not and oil anymore, and then burn it and use it to generate the electricity needed or the rotative movement needed, depending on what you're asking for. So basically, you keep the engine and you switch the fuel, and you have different type of fuel. Don't want to give headache today, but just keep in mind, for example, BTL or GTL, and then again, the most used currently is HVO in yachting and super yachting industry. The second option, which is the most expensive and most complex ones, is about changing those kind of engines for something else. And that's where you start to dive into this massive ocean of hybridization, for example. So then we can speak about, let's have some batteries with electric engines, but have a fuel cell with hydrogen, for example, to recharge the batteries, as an example. And with this setup, so electric engine, batteries, fuel cell, you can run only on fuel cell, or you can run only on batteries, for example, or you can run on both.
Mhm.
And again, depending on the energy needed by the boat, you can decide how you set up the system to say, okay, if I'm using more hydrogen, for example, directly, then I will reduce my pollution rather than filling the batteries to empty it back again. You can use straight away the H2. If you have less transformation of energy on the chain, of course you save energy. So all those advanced technologies is all about keeping in mind how can I reduce the energy needs first, and then answering this need, how can we have the shortest value chain and supply chain. Then we can do something, absolutely like, if I can say engineering speaking, amazing, with like many systems connected together. But I just want to make this small highlight of, it's not always the best answer to just basically pollute less. So here are the main topics, and then there is methanol coming on the markets. Methanol explained in a very simple way. Everyone have heard about hydrogen and gas hydrogen. It's very hard to store for volume equation and compression issues. So what engineers thought about is that how can we have hydrogen inside the fuel cell, for example, or inside the engine, but stored in a simple way. And one of the answers is about methanol, because inside methanol, you have 3 atoms of hydrogen. So you can have methanol on board, no pressure, ambient temperature, and then you extract the H2 from the methanol and you use it in the fuel cell or in the engine, basically. So even for the storage, you can store in one way, then extract another energy, and in the end, for example, have a third one, such as electricity, and then you propulse the boat with your electric engine, as an example. That's the scope, basically, of advanced technologies.
Wow. Okay. These are for advanced technologies in the industry. Is that exactly what HY plug does?
Yeah, that's our daily job, basically. So we are studying for customers the most suitable solution, again, for empowering, so what I was just talking about, but as well for the bunkering, because you have movable permanence, you have different storage quantity, and all the regulation around that, which is a tiny headache as well, in addition, but we need it to make a project. So yeah, that's exactly what we're working on.
So I have to say that was very technical, at least for me. But you were saying that the core clients that you're talking about are the ports, right?
Yeah, for the bunkering, we are working with ports, and then for all the empowering topic, it's related to shipyards.
How can crew help with these decisions? Can
Um,
they?
yeah, they definitely can, because once the boat is launched, it's not anymore about consultancy company, shipyards, anything else. The only people on board the boat sailing with, they are the crew. So the first like thing and statements is about understanding, knowing, getting curious of what are those energies coming.
Mhm.
Not asking them, of course, to be engineer, but I would say the first step is about understanding what we are talking about, if I may say we for the moment, to make sure first, if there is a project which is a bit tricky. They are not getting on board on the yachts, which is not, for example, something like absolutely safe, as like a first project. And as well in the management of the boats, some people, and actually they rather keeping like a geo-conventional boat. They don't want to switch for like methanol one, for example. But once you start to speak with them, you understand they just didn't get the technical data of methanol. So they have an idea of what is it. They get a bit scared about it. But once they get knowledge, they were like, okay, in the end of the day, of course, it's not something you're going to drink, of course, but it's manageable. And if you don't do something silly, nothing will happen. I mean, the boat won't explode by themselves. So I would say the first thing is about knowledge for them. And as they can get this knowledge and be confident with this changement, because of course, everything new, the way you bunker is different, just the name of the fuel, the prices are different, the taxation is different. So once you get, more confident with, then regarding owners, for example, or regarding guests on board, you can have a positive attitude with people and then kind of helping the industry from your onboard position to make this change. Because even if you have the best engineer, shippers, everything we want, if at the sea doesn't work for some reason, it will be much harder to make a change in the industry. So for me, we definitely need in the loop many people, but as well, of course, crew and all the crew, from chief engineer to chief stew, of course, everyone on the boat.
You were saying that there will be changes, of course, in processes that directly affect the crew. Can we say, would I hesitate because I have more now to do, more processes, or for me, it's like after I understand, it's just more about changing how I operate, and then I can easily make the change. Or if I was, in other words, I'm crew and I'm like, this is definitely what we want to do. Is the infrastructure in place for me to be able to actually go ahead and make this change? Because you were talking about that many of your customers were, the bunkering, the ports. Will they be able to actually support me if I make these changes?
Yeah. So for the first part of your question, depending on the energy and the like boat design, you can have some differences in the daily work, but it will be more for the technical crew. So like engineer and captain, once the bunkering are coming, because once the boat is full, there isn't any like very special behavior to have, and even for all like the interior and stuff, it's not really highly concerned. Except some specific boat who have like safety systems, basically crossing the entire yacht and going from the bottom all the way up. It's just like safety pipelines. So in this type of case, yes, you can maybe have different procedures in case of emergency on the boat rather than what you're used to have. So then you need to get how can I say that, to get like informed of those new procedures, to make sure you have the right behaviors. Regarding the bunkering sides, most of the new energies currently, they are bunkered as when you're ordering a tube trailer or geo for like a big quantity or several tube trailers. Mm-hmm. So logistics speaking, for ports, there is the regulation question, which is beforehand. That's the type of case we're working on, for example, currently with Monaco ports, and we've done it for Saint-Tropez a year and a half ago, working with them to just make the search in advance of, if you get a yacht, super yacht coming to bunker with methanol, for example, how does it work? What is different from GO? And is there that many differences, for example, between GO and methanol, technically speaking, when you bunker? So I would say there is a need from the crew, and when I'm saying the crew, I even include the captain inside, to ask beforehand, before the need of the bunkering, the ports, well, okay, we are aiming to bunker with this energy.
Yeah.
Is it okay for you? Like, you cannot expect a reaction as GO, being honest for now. But if you want to, it's manageable. You just need to, for example, take care of it 3 months in advance. Then you make sure you can get the energy, and then you can get the port acceptance. I don't want to say approval, because it's not about, they don't have to give any certificate, but if they are scared of, and they don't get enough time to like, okay, we understood what it is, it's fine, it's going to be okay, then they can say, no, we don't want. That's where with HighPlug, we are helping as much as possible with the industry, working with the ports to say, okay, guys, there are some topics you need to be very strict on. There are some others, it's just human fears. It's not about technique or safety. So have a look at the regulation. We are explaining to them, and then it's getting easier after because they're like, oh, okay, we thought it was more complex. But depending of topics is not that complex. So
you've been mentioning regulation a couple of times. So maybe can you explain to us what kind of regulations are you do you see that maybe need to be changed, or again, maybe even what crew can do on your behalf? Because I do see in this conversation as the crew being your advocates to help this move forward and continue to in this path.
Yeah. For the mostly for the bunkering side, because the building process crew is not really involved, as when the boat is at the sea, everything have been certified. So, I mean, don't want to say they are absolutely out of the process totally, but usually it's with classification society, with like naval architects and all the yacht management company and the shipyards. So, speaking more about the bunkering side, something basic, but when you make, if we take hydrogen, because it's like the famous energy nowadays, everyone is speaking about hydrogen and so on. So let's take this one as concrete.
Obviously, I speak about hydrogen all day long, so I'm sort of tired of it now.
Like everyone heard about it, and once you start to say, okay, but do you know there are different forms to store it? No, I didn't know. Okay, it's fine. So let's take it from there. Something very basic, very simple. With hydrogen, you can use it in the gas form, or you can use it in the liquid form. Basically, liquid is cryogenic. It's minus 252 degrees. So at those low temperatures, I believe everyone gets it, you have like more constraints to make sure your store in the pipeline is keeping the temperature than in the boat and so on. In the gas form, it can be compressed with different pressures. So transportation on roads, it's 750. It can go up to 1,000 for like more stationary use, but maritime is only 350. So first thing to keep in mind, if you're a crew and you're like, oh, maybe I get on board on gas hydrogen boat, but I'm scared about it. First, keep in mind, the maritime pressure is much lower than the road pressure. So people knows how to deal with higher ones. In maritime, it's cooler. We have lower pressure for now. And then once we made this difference, basically when you want to make the bunkering, you have different ways to transport. So let's now stick to the gas form only. With the gas form, you can store, if I can say, in bottles, to say it simply. And you can store in big tube trailer. The difference is, for the same quantity, you have one package, or you have several next to each other, which means in case of explosion, let's take the big case everyone's speaking about with hydrogen again, you can have one of the 10, for example, exploding, or you can have one big only. You got it. If it's the one big exploding, you have a bigger issue than one of the small, where you can stop the system for each other. So as
the
a
safety lines that you were talking about.
Sorry?
Is that the safety lines that you were talking about before? No.
The safety lines?
Yeah.
You mean, yeah, like that's one of the safety rules, for example. So if you're in like 10 bottles or one bottle with the same quantity, you have different rules. That's why it's important for crew to know. In the first scenario where you have the 10 bottles, officially in France, for example, you don't have distance, safety distance. So if you want to make the bunkering next to like a cigarette, you can. You know, I'm taking extreme examples, but just to illustrate how regulation is it right now. In the other hand, you have 50 meters distance. So if the crew doesn't know about it, they can come close to the second scenario thinking, oh, well, yeah, I've heard there isn't distance. It's okay. And then you have massive issue there. So I'm taking a very big example where again, as Hyplug, we're working on those topics and working with clients to implement distances in any case to make sure there isn't drama happening. But regulation only can say those kind of crazy differences of 0 distance one case, 50 meters other case. That's where crew, if they get a bit of knowledge and a bit educated about those topics, they can be like, okay, well, I know there are like minimum distance to be logic to respect, but in some scenarios, for these hydrogen boats, it can be very wide distance. And just basically, when you make the gas hydrogen bunkering, you're prohibited to have your phone. Like, I know for geo officially, you should not have it, but we understood each other. But for H2 is really, really big topic because it's a gas and it's under pressure. So those kind of small behaviors, just like getting out of the boat, be like, okay, I'm just going at the quay, I have something to shop. Well, no. With hydrogen bunkering, you stay where you are, your phone is out of the zone, you wait until the bunkering is ended, and after you do what you want. That's in those kind of behaviors where I'm really seeing the importance of crew being involved when there are conferences, when there are talk, when there are discussion about the project, even with shipyards preparing the bunkering. That's where I'm seeing the importance for them to just be aware, because once you know, nothing is like crazy. I've attended bunkering. I'm still alive, 2 hands, 2 legs. I'm okay. But someone needs to tell you.
Yeah, you're gonna tell me. I'm kind of afraid. I would definitely be with the checklist that I was like, do I need a special vest? I'm moving 50 meters, 5 meters away from this. I don't know about this. I just noticed, oh my God, the time has really got
Oh yeah.
really fast. I don't know if you want to lead into maybe, are there resources like I find this really interesting. I would love to know more. Are there resources, maybe a blog on your website, something that we can learn, or do you want to do a case study? I think we don't have time for a case study, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit tight now, but regarding resources, so on our website directly, we have a small page about environment, but which is not related to like specific regulation and stuff. So it's not that detailed. For any people interested, please just feel free to reach out to me. We have the Saint-Tropez Ports study. They accepted to release almost 10 pages publicly with data. I'm mixing documents and case study in 2 minutes. So Saint-Tropez study, basically they said which shipyards are working on which energies for the next 5 years to understand what is going to arrive in the ports. So in this public part of the report, you can get some insight about, for example, what is the representation of hydrogen for shipyards. And it has been delivered end of 2022, so it's quite a fresh study. So in this document, you can get some more detailed information that you won't find, on Google. So if you're interested, just please feel free to drop me a message on LinkedIn or email, whatever. And then what we decide to do for the knowledge part, we create a training, which is certified by the state in France, which is named like Calliope for any French company based. So we have this 1-day training, exactly as the discussion today, explaining what is H2, what is methanol, what's regulation, how do you burn H2 in the boat, basically all those kind of technical data, but made in the most simple way during 1 day to spread this knowledge with people. You have one concrete case as well to make sure you understood, all the contents. You have quizzes. So we create this training to try to help on the education side of the industry.
I was with you until you said quizzes, and I was like, I spent the whole day and I just didn't pass or something. I'm gonna have to be laser focused on your session. This was really fascinating. I'm definitely gonna be reaching out. I want to learn more. I didn't even know that that's something that you and the marine industry were working on. That's quite fascinating. We got a minute. How can people reach you? I know you already set your website, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Yeah, we have Instagram accounts, the LinkedIn account of the company or mine directly, the websites, and then we are on yachting pages as well. We have an account on Super Times. So if you just Google the company, normally you might find the network. Just typing Hyplug, even without the dash, you can find any link normally from the company.
That's fairly easy then. Also, the ones tuning in, she will be in Cannes and the Monaco Yacht Show. So if you are around and also part of YPY, you'll have easier access to her.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the company is based in Monaco and in Côte d'Azur. So of course, I will be exhibitor at the Monaco Yacht Show. Again, anyone in the sustainability hub, of course. So anyone interested, please feel free to pass by. And for YPY Monaco chapter, a small big up maybe, but yeah, we organize an event during the Canyoning Festival. So any YPY members are absolutely welcome. And the Monaco Yacht Show breakfasts, the famous YPY Monaco events, that's only
You
on
want to say hi, me too.
So feel free to pass by. Anyway.
Thank you so much for your time. I told you we can get you out of here before your next client meeting. Yeah, I'll be reaching out. This was fascinating. I actually probably have to rewatch the session to really understand everything that you just unloaded on us. Thank you again. And guys, we'll give you 2-minute break and then following with our next session. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
So let's continue with sustainable and eco-friendly clothing. Discover practical solutions for integrating sustainable and eco-friendly clothing into yacht crew wardrobes. This session covers innovative fabrics, durable designs, and brands committed to reducing environmental impact. Learn how to choose clothing that supports marine conservation while ensuring style and functionality on board. Hi guys, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Why don't we take the opportunity and OCEANFORM, take the floor. Can you guys introduce yourselves and even introduce the company?
Yeah, my name is Julie. This is my business partner, William, and we are the founders of OCEANFORM. We provide the industry with modern uniform solutions where we are taking pride in just getting something new to the industry, challenging the outdated designs, and setting a new standard for quality and performance.
Couldn't have said it better. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, my name is Wardley. I'm the owner and founder of Ethical Yachtwear, a sustainable crew uniform company. We started in 2019, and we're on a mission to give back to our beautiful industry and give back to our beautiful oceans, which make the industry so possible.
Can you guys start, OCEANFORM, starting with you, what led you to start this journey and creating your clothing uniform company?
Yes, so we're former crew ourselves. So 2 years ago, we started developing OCEANFORM because as crew on board, we wanted to create something different and to introduce the industry to modern design. And as I said before, set a new standard, trying to solve all the issues we were experiencing on board with uniforms. Yeah, I don't know if you...
Well, yeah, I mean, it's sort of all stemmed from, crew and owner preferences. So everything's sort of been designed with, like I said, crew and owner preferences in mind. And yeah, I think, we all sort of drove by frustration, really, in our example, and that's sort of what led us to do our own thing. And we launched in January, so we've had 8 months of sales, so to speak. And yeah, it's going really well. We're having a really good reaction from everybody. So yeah.
Lauren, also, what led you to start your company?
Yeah, sure. So I also was crew, and long mundane days in laundry room and constant business podcasts and listening, and I really wanted to make an impact myself. And then so Four Oceans bracelets and Tom's shoes just started to emerge at the time. And I don't know, probably the audience have heard of at least one of the companies, and they're social give back business models. So Tom's shoes gives a pair of shoes to kids in Argentina so they can go to school. Four Oceans bracelets started, and they started raising money for ocean conservation. And I really wanted to make my own sort of social impact, so I started selling organic cotton t-shirts to raise money for ocean conservation. And then Dock Walk found out about my little company that I was doing from my cabin on my last boat, and they wrote an article about my t-shirt company raising money for ocean conservation, and they wrote the article. And as soon as the article came out, boats started asking me how could they use my t-shirts for their crew uniform. And at first, I really liked my logo I created. I really just wanted to raise money for ocean conservation. And then I thought, what a cool idea. There's a demand for better quality, sustainable uniform. And I was like, absolutely. And those clients that started with me back then are still with me today. And it's just been such a beautiful journey of trying to change the industry for the better, really.
I am definitely going to give a shout out to Holly Overton from Dock Walk, because that's how both of you, or both companies, are here on the forum. Thankfully, she has been keeping an eye on for emerging companies, and those of them are pushing forward on sustainability and better practices for the environment. So big shout out to Holly there.
Yeah, I think we'll second that. Thank you, Holly.
Let me start with OCEANFORM. What are some innovative sustainable fabrics currently available, and the ones that you are using?
So we use recycled polyester and recycled polyamide. Recycled polyester, which is made from plastic from the ocean, and recycled polyamide, which is made from fishing nets from the ocean. And that just makes complete sense for us because it's the most durable fabric you can get your hands on. It's super lightweight, stretchy, moisture wicking, has all the properties a crew needs. And also in terms of washing, it holds dye very well, so it doesn't fade in color.
Yeah, I mean, second to that, polyamide was actually invented as a sort of replica of silk, a synthetic silk. So it's super comfortable for everybody. Its natural elasticity is really good for uniform. It's extremely durable, as Julie mentioned.
Naturally wrinkle-free as well, which is important for the laundry girls as well. And yeah, it doesn't shrink in the wash. So yeah, that's the two fabrics that we really enjoy using. Yeah,
and just on the recycled polyamide there, 46% of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is made from nets that are in the ocean. So we're doing our bit by putting those out of the ocean and turning them back into something that can be used again and again and again for many years to come.
Lauren, how about you? Are you using the same, or do you have other materials that you prefer for your clothing?
Yeah, very similar. They just highlighted some really important factors. And we use a combination of organic cotton and recycled polyester. So organic cotton, so we don't use any pesticides or fertilizers. The cotton industry is one of the biggest creators of dead zones in the ocean through the pesticides and fertilizers that run off from the cotton farms. So we make sure we use organic cotton, so we don't need to have the pesticides, the fertilizers, we don't kill the sea life. And we use recycled polyester because polyester original form is made from petroleum, which is a non-renewable resource, obviously. So
we use recycled, so we're not introducing any more new material onto the planet, but also not the demand on the fossil fuels. And yeah, so both the fabrics we use are sort of hugely beneficial environmentally to the planet. Absolutely, very similar.
I see Ogo is backstage, but I'm gonna give him a time to get settled in. If I'm new to what to look out for uniforms, how do I identify as crew which ones are the right ones if I don't know yet the company names? I don't know, Ocean Farm, if you want to take.
Well, I think we agree on that. The most important thing is to have 100% transparent supply chain, and to do your research when you are looking for brands. And yeah, don't be afraid of asking the uniform brands. I think for us, like, one thing is to work with recycled fabrics. Another thing is, where you produce, where your fabric is produced, how, are you treating your fabrics? How are they treated? Is it with eco-friendly finishes or with, harmful chemicals?
Where is it produced? The legislation in that area, what sort of laws and regulations you're dealing with. But as you said, if you don't know yourself, I think the best way to do it is when you're doing that initial inquiry, you're asking your minimum quantities for your vessel or whatever it might be, but just simply ask, what are your environmental,
and also look for maybe the fabric that we just mentioned and Lauren mentioned, polyester and polyamide, because they are very durable and works perfectly for uniforms. So just ask. I think that's the best way.
Lauren, I'm going to change that question a little bit for you, but how have you received the yachting crew community? I just don't know if they're knowledgeable or not, or are they aware enough to go through the research? Is that enough for them to go out there and find out themselves, or can they rely? Is there an icon, or like you were just mentioning? Well, at least we know that this fabric is the one that we definitely don't want to not have on board, and this one is. How do you simplify that for crew, Lauren?
For ethical yachtwear, we're sort of like a multi-faceted company. So we do a lot of education. And so really that's the point in essence. Like, I didn't know a lot about clothing before I got in the clothing industry, or fell into the clothing industry through the Organic Cotton T-shirt company. And, I was lucky enough to be able to do a lot of research, but we also operate with a lot of education. So we do seminars within all the boat shows. We try and disseminate that information through the yachting community so they have the educated opinion or information to make better decisions when they are choosing. So we're proactive in that, in terms of we're not expecting the crew to know. I mean, I didn't know, but that's why we are trying to put out as much information as possible. So crew have the information, so then they're equipped with what they need to be making those decisions.
Thank you. That's definitely the workshops, getting the word out there, and platforms like Dog Walk obviously definitely help. If I was crew or Stu, I did do it very little, not career, like probably the people on this call. I think my first question would be: is it as durable as my other clothing? Is it going to be as comfortable, because I am using it as a uniform? And lastly, is it easily accessible? Because I do know, like, for example, with the Met seasons coming, I just need product immediately. So is it the same? I don't know. Who wants to take that question?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in terms of durability, again, it's down to the material, the finishes that are involved. Again, using recycled polyamides, recycled polyesters. Recycled polyamide is actually, in fact, stronger than recycled polyester. That's why they use it for fishing nets in the nylon, which is then turned into that recycled polyamide. But yeah, and then in terms of finishes as well, I mean, we use eco-friendly finishes as well, which actually enhance that durability even more. That's about it.
That's about, and I think it's kind of misunderstood, like that you can't have the durability and a sustainable uniform. I think as crew, like they need to realize as well, like, you don't have to compromise. You just need to find a brand that prioritizes both.
We're in luck. Ugo is here. He's going to join us, and I'm going to hop off. Give me 1 second.
Hey, I think you can hear me now. Everything sound okay?
Yeah. Hey, Hugo.
Perfect. Hey, guys. Sorry about that. Time changes are always a bit. It's all good. As crew, I have a lot of questions about ethical yachtwear. Not just the company name, but actually, the concept of green and going green in terms of uniform. I wanted to ask, what's the biggest issue that you're seeing in terms of adaptation? I imagine what I think is for some people price, or we've been doing it the same way, but I'd love to see, what kind of infiltration you're getting into the market, and also just what response are you getting back? Is it, overwhelmingly positive, like, hey, we've been waiting for this all along, or is it like, hey, the owner doesn't really see, the budget going this way this time? And you can each do it once. If you want to start with ethical yachtwear and then go to OCEANFORM.
Yeah, sure. So, to be honest, the only reason I've had ethical yachtwear for the last 5 years is because it's been pursued by crew. As I said, I fell into it. I was just trying to raise money for ocean conservation. I never planned to have a uniform company. And if it hadn't been for the demand from the crew, I wouldn't still be here, because I didn't see it as necessarily my career path, but it's just been so overwhelming that crew want to make a better decision and better choice, and the impact that we've been able to create has kept me going. So it's only by demand that we're still in the industry. And then in terms of price, I think you mentioned price. We don't charge anymore, and we never wanted to give crew a reason to say no. So we only tried to price point exactly as every other existing uniform company or similar anyway. And we never wanted crew to use price as a reason to not be able to have sustainable items. So we take less margin. But yeah, just for that point really. And I think the only adaptation issue we come through, and I don't think it's due to sustainability. What it is I think with clothing, right, it's kind of like jeans, swimwear, skirts. It's really hard to find something that fits crew well, or enough of the crew well enough to buy that particular shorts or skirts. And then so if you'd like to transition to a different brand, it's quite hard, because you've got inventory, you've got stock, 4 out of the 5 girls fit a certain model. So it's trying to like get our uniform on board and show them that it does fit well, and it could be suitable for the crew. And the other thing is crew always or boats have inventory, right? And we're not trying to like create more wastage. So we kind of want, their old inventory to run its course before we slowly come on board, I suppose. So yeah, with all that in mind, it's a slow process. I find uniform a slow burning sort of situation to get on board, but once we do, we create such an amazing impact, so it's so worth the slow burn.
That's awesome. Do you find that, and I'll get the OCEANFORM one in a sec, I just had a follow-up. Do you find a certain size range or anything like that has been your bread and butter, where maybe there's enough decision-making power, like let's say in the chief stew, rather than just, the owner's partner or the captain just making a blanket decision to fill in the same boxes last year?
I don't know size range, but I mean, we've had demand from all areas. There's been captains that see articles about us and like tell their chief stew, we want to use this company. I've had direct owners be like, you can only use ethical yachtwear from now on, which has been really amazing. And then obviously we got a lot of stews as well that just intrinsically want to do better and see the impact, and there's a lot more education around plastics and ocean, and if you put the link together that you could be doing better here, a lot of crews start to seek the demand for it, for sure.
Awesome. And then the first question for you guys over at OCEANFORM.
Yeah, no, I think definitely what Lauren said as well, because it wouldn't be a sustainable way, to just get rid of your uniforms you have on board. So transitioning to a sustainable wardrobe, takes time, and you should do it gradually. Look at your current uniforms and what you have and what you're missing. And I think for us as well, even though it's, I think all uniform owners can agree that samples is a bit of a pain, but that is very important. Get your samples on board, test them out, try them out. And, because that's a way of, try them on and you can feel that it's no difference to, uniforms that are not eco-friendly.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's it. And I think, again, on the second question, the sizing, I don't think you need to compromise on that. There's brands out there like us both. We're doing all sizes. our dresses come in tall lengths, regular lengths. So we've actually got 10 sizes for just one dress, or even more than that, perhaps. But yeah, so anyway, you shouldn't have to compromise.
Yeah,
there are good companies out there doing
good work.
Yeah.
No, that's great, and it's good to know. What would you say for, like, I'm sure there's going to be crew that are listening here that aren't the decision maker, right? That they know that decision of what uniform company we're using is outside of their hands. Besides, running a uniform into the ground where it's patchy, it's got holes in it. What are some like low hanging fruit for crew to use the stuff that they have now, or how can they get that second life out of it, or what's the best way that they can be as green as possible if they don't have the opportunity to immediately jump on board now with what you guys are offering? And I'll start with the OCEANFORM.
Yeah, no, I think, as I said before, look at what you have on board, because we're not, and like no one is interested in more waste than necessary. So yeah, look at what you have on board and what you're missing for uniform pieces. And I think as well, all boats need stock, extra stock for, crew members and all of that. But I think that should be, rethought, and like you don't need unnecessary stock on board. And I think that's as well as our job to advise that.
And to look after what you have, check your wash labels. You don't need to be doing those really long washes on hot temperatures. Again, with these sort of new synthetic fabrics like recycled polyamide, recycled polyester, they're naturally wrinkle free anyway. Hang dry them. You don't need to go in a tumble dryer using all that energy. There's lots of ways, and generally all that information is widely available on websites and on the care label. So always check the care label.
That's good advice probably for everyone, including the laundries too. I've just been on so many boats that you get there, especially at the beginning, and you can see just tubs of uniform in the bilge, and it breaks your heart knowing there's like $20,000 worth of uniform there. It's probably outdated, or it's sat long enough that it's not in the condition they thought it was now. The owner's getting a new bill, and then they're going, well, I thought we just bought uniform. And I know it's a touchy subject for so many people.
Yeah, I think, some uniform brands, we just started, so that's still something we work on. But, hopefully some of the uniform brands, if you have stock, they have take back programs. They might be able to take it back. And if not, I think we'd suggest to give it another life in another way, like donating the clothes. Super Yacht is traveling all around the world, and there is people that would be very happy to get some clothes. So I think, give it a second life if you can't use it on board anymore.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, and probably for not even just uniform. There's so many aspects of our industry that we have excess. I know sometimes, especially with food, it's a little bit difficult because it spoils, but with uniform, that's a really, really good idea. Lauren, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the plastic bank relationship that you have. Sorry if you've already spoken about it a little bit, but I was really intrigued by that, and also just your inspiration from Tom's. As a former Tom's wearer, while I was backpacking around the world, I've always had that brand near and dear. So it's cool that also helped inspire to where you are right now.
Yeah, sure. I'll just backtrack a little bit. We do take back on the US side. We're not set up for Europe just yet, but we do take back. We've also partnered with a company where we actually recycled some of the clothing and things, and we create boat show equipment and all sorts of cool stuff. So that's something we do on the US side. But moving forward with the plastic bank, so we actually just announced this week that we funded the removal of 1 million plastic bottles from the ocean. And so it's just been released yesterday in Trying.org. I think there's about 8 different publications it's coming out of, because we operate on a 2-part system. So not only through the polyester that we use, that we incorporate, like was said before, fishing nets, plastic bottles into the recycled plastic the clothing. But we also give a percentage of our profit since we started to a company called the Plastic Bank. And like you said, Tom's Shoes was a huge inspiration, a give back business model. I really wanted Ethical Yachtwear to work on a circular business model, and to us it made sense to give back to the oceans. The Plastic Bank is a really amazing company. I did a lot of research on who I wanted to give the percentage of our profits back to. And they basically pay people in poorer coastal communities to pick up plastic as jobs. So it's reducing poverty, and it's also reducing plastic. And so we've been helping support them since 2019 now. And so through funding with them and through the recycled plastic in our shorts, we've just made million plastic bottle mark now, which is really, really cool. And yeah, the plastic bank's great. I just love the way they did the help poverty as well as the plastic. So it just made a lot of sense to me to do it that way.
Right. That's awesome. And I'd love to ask both of you too, with super yachting sometimes being so under the radar and people having a lot of heated opinions about it, whether it's the lavishness of it or the waste or so many things. Have you gotten any pushback from people saying, oh, this is great, you're going green, but this industry is completely the opposite? So like, are you kind of polishing a turd, so to speak, or what are your thoughts on that? I'd love to hear from, the actual business owner.
Yeah, well, I think, the fashion industry and the yachting industry is not the best cocktail, but I think everyone just appreciates that you are doing, something that's better for the planet. And yeah, of course, like you have the comments, but as soon as you explain what you do, I think you kind of, exactly. It's not really a thing anymore. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think, at least, super yachting's not going anywhere. The richer are arguably getting richer. The industry is growing by 20% a year. And therefore, all these little changes that we can bring on board in a more environmentally conscious way, that 1% each time adds up to many percents. And yeah, I mean, just on the 1% thing, as a company ourselves, we actually donate 1% of profits to marine conservation projects all over the world. So yeah, I think there's lots of brands like Ethical Yachtwear and ourselves where we're tackling the client side of things with our environmental products, but we're also doing good with the money that we're receiving from those clients. So yeah, it's about us to try and do what we can.
Yeah, I think that's 100% the way too. Lauren, anything that you want to add or touch on that? What your experience has been?
Honestly, I've had one Instagram comment since the beginning about something like the irony between sustainability and yachting, and I just said thank you for your feedback and didn't think twice about it. I mean, for me, it's so important to just give back and do better, and if people don't see it that way, then that's unfortunate, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I agree for sure as well. Do you see, let's do with OCEANFORM, the future of this, let's say a few years down the line, do you see yourself having like more of a physical presence? Is online the way to go because it's green and, it's just inherently green by not having employees, a roof and stock just sitting there? Or do you see a world where maybe you've got a showroom or something like that for people to at least come on and try?
Yeah.
Well, I think for us, also producing in Europe, like I think the idea of having a showroom is actually not a favorite idea. Like we like to educate our clients and trying to advise them the best we can, obviously online, but meet them also at yacht shows and also with warehouse stock. I think it's important to mention that we do not have an excessive stock because we want to do everything on pre-order. So we make sure that we don't have dead products sitting around and getting wasted.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And again, travel, like for us, I think we only attend 2 shows a year currently, which is Palma, and we attend Monaco. So we ourselves try and keep those air miles down.
Yeah.
And as a company, we produce, from yarn to end packaging, we're producing within 50 kilometers of each factory and each supplier in Portugal. So, and then when we're producing in Portugal, we're only 1,000 kilometers away from our clients in the south of France. So yeah, it's all about reducing air miles. Doing what we can as a company to be as efficient as possible.
Green as possible.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That makes sense. In the yachting environment that can be so, you owe me this yesterday and rush. Do you find that sometimes isn't congruent with your goal? Like I can imagine many a captain saying, hey, let's expedite this thing. I need it here now, and really putting those kind of expectations on you. What's your experience?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and that's the thing, you know, we launched kind of after everyone had ordered uniforms for the Met season. So the orders we've been getting is like mid-season, like we want it now, we want it now. But I think we just tried to prepare ourselves for that, have the fabric in stock. So we only had a couple of weeks delivery. So yeah, we're just trying to bring down the lead time as good as we can while still being as sustainable as we can.
Awesome. Yeah, that's the best you can do. And Lauren, if you want to touch on either question or how your experience has been.
Yeah, sure. So physical shop wise, I don't have any intentions of physical shop. We have 8 distributors worldwide set up, so we don't need to really have a shop so far, which is really cool. And then in terms of it's inventory. We do hold inventory. We hold inventory in Fort Lauderdale and Belgium. It's already pre-set up, so it doesn't have to go very far from either side logistics team to get to a boat, and we can pretty much turn around within 48 hours. But we did make the decision to only hold stock of the items that people want. So when we run out, we restock. And yeah, so we're not operating with thousands and thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stock in a warehouse,
Right.
But we do have enough where people can meet the demands of the industry, basically.
So I got a question here that comes up. What companies think about the microplastics that come out of every wash of recycled polyester? So yeah, microplastics are a huge topic. I'm in no way aware of what I might have in my laundry machine and what I'm putting back on when that stuff starts rubbing out. What do you guys think about that? Or let's do Lauren, because you were just talking. Go ahead.
Sure. So we've just started supplying a part for washing machines that you can equip so it actually captures the microplastics so they don't seep out, because this was a big comment, obviously, for us still using polyester. And it is a known fact that they do produce microplastics. So we've started to look at all the solutions we can provide based on that. So now we have a part where people can purchase and fit a filtration system to any washing machine, basically.
That's awesome. That's great. Speaking of microplastics and synthetics, one question I do have is, I know on a lot of programs, and myself included, being a deck crew member, sometimes the Lulu type of polos that are sweat wicking or like athletic cut, they're really appealing because we get wet so often that we're like, man, it's great to be dry, and that's one of the downsides of having 100% organic cotton. Is that something that you've gotten as feedback, like people asking, hey, what can we get the deck team, or how can this best accommodate while being green? Just really yeah. So sorry, I didn't say who it was. That was for OCEANFORM. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually one of the reasons why we have chose not to facilitate cotton in our model. We believe that there are many benefits for using synthetic material and recycled synthetic. So yeah, that's one of the reasons for sure.
Yeah.
And okay, sorry. So correct. So Lauren, with your use of cotton, have you gotten that as feedback from some of the crew?
In terms of breathability?
Well, just overall, what they were looking for, what they're coming to you at first. They might be coming in with some of these prejudices of, we really love having synthetics because, like I said, they're dry wicking, or they're not they're not as they don't trap heat in as much. They don't stay wet as long. So, what would your response be to someone that's looking to fulfill, that type of wear, but wants to go the green route?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we try and offer a sustainable version of anything. So it's like at the moment, crew t-shirts, every boat I've ever been on in the 8 years of yachting that I was in yachting, everybody wore cotton t-shirts for off charter. And there is the SPF, obviously, with the water sports and stuff, but generally speaking, it was cotton for off charter for the day wear t-shirts. So with the organic cotton, I mean, we've never really had any, negative feedback. It's just we offer a sustainable version of the cotton shirt that they were wearing already. And then I do get the question quite often with polos more than anything, and whether they should do cotton or polyester. And I always try and just say that's a personal preference, because we can offer the recycled polyester or we can offer the organic cotton. So if they do prefer cotton, it's a little, it feels a little heavier at times, But then again, there's a lot more breathability, whereas the plastic and polyester tends to trap sort of, I guess, heat within a little bit more, is what people have been saying to us. So I always say it's personal preference. You know, what do you prefer? Do you prefer cotton or do you prefer polyester? And then we can offer you a solution to either.
Perfect. And Julie and William, what's exciting you in the green space now, whether it's, with uniform or, anything else that's popping up and how that's coming into the industry? Because I know, especially when I started, I don't think there was anyone really doing any green anything at the time, or it was really, really underground. So it is cool to see so many companies popping up. So what's exciting you?
I think within the actual yachting industry itself, I mean, the biggest contributor to pollution is the yachts themselves. So, you've got Fedship pumping out hydrogen fuel cell super yachts now. We've just recently seen that solar power Perinarvi, the catamaran. So I think in terms of the biggest polluters, the fact that the shipyards themselves are trying to contribute in a more sustainable way, they're the ones having the biggest impact. Let's be honest. So yeah, I think that's kind of an exciting space.
Yeah, and I think for us, it was not really an option not to be sustainable from the beginning. Even though we know that that's something you do gradually sometimes, and after a couple of years, you then move your production to Europe or use recycled materials. We wanted to do it right from the beginning. We didn't want to compromise on anything. That has been the rule.
No compromise.
And no compromises. We rather wanted to take that extra time to develop the perfect products. We're just trying to be as sustainable as possible, and that's obviously super exciting because, as crew, 1.5 years ago, we saw from owner that it was that was the main requirement from our
it was almost like a panic situation with a previous vessel that we were on. It was, how can we do this? How can we be more sustainable? Crew, what can you guys do? What can we do as owners? And I think the reality is setting in for a lot of owners and their reputation as well. So yeah, it's a widely known issue, and I think it's really important that we're all contributing to it.
You bring up a good point with even the reputation of the owner being at play, because that's one of the first things you see on any of those news articles when they are blasting about how certain yachts are sitting there burning so much fuel, anchored outside of Monaco or whatever. They're very quick to say the owner's name. So you're right. Having a sustainable yacht, sustainable in certain aspects for sure would help the credibility and help offset some of that. Do you see, where do you see the industry going to be as sustainable as you'd like it? What kind of time frame are we looking till we're at all, so we can feel good about what's sailing around and what materials are being used, for everything from the uniform to the supplies? Are we looking at a 100-year goal, a 50-year goal? Do you see 25-year goal?
Is it?
Yeah. That was still for you guys. I was just following up with what you were saying.
I think it's obviously difficult to say, and I think as sustainable as anything can be. Is it the excessive nature of super yachts? Is that where it becomes unsustainable forever, or I don't know. It's a difficult one, but I think as long as we can all incorporate as much as we can sustainable products on board.
And I think to do better, because I think it will it will take a while for the industry to be 100% sustainable, but I think just as crew as well to feel better, because you're using eco-friendly products on board, and uniforms. And we also experienced that with our 1% for the ocean, where we talk to our clients what non-profit organization they want to donate to. They feel a part of something bigger. They feel like they're actually making a difference. And as we talked about before, it is also a lot about branding. So yeah. I think we're going in the right direction. Yeah,
I think that's very well said. I don't know if the super yachting will go 100% green, but it is up to us to definitely chip away at every part, right? Because if we've got, I don't know, even 100 something thousand crew out there and we're all doing our part, it's much better than if we were doing the alternative.
exactly.
Lauren, would you like to give us some parting words of what you think, where everything's going, how you feel about it, and just give us the last chance of what Ethical Yachtwear stands on and everything?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I mean, when I started Ethical Yachtwear, it was such a foreign concept, you know, like yachting, sustainability, and the community that we've sort of, you know, founded and been part of in especially the last couple of years. Like almost every person on these eco talks the last 2 days, we've either engaged with, worked with, come together with in one way or another. And that in itself is so exciting, you know, because that just means that the sustainable community is all coming together, and the more we come together, the bigger push we have, the better we can do. So it's like, I mean, even from these talks right now, it's like, how cool, you know, this wasn't like a common thing a couple of years ago. And it's just really exciting. And I love working with all the people on the eco talks, and I love working with like all the other people who are very like-minded to do better. And I'm so excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, well said as well. Well, I commend both of, well, not both companies, all three of you, for paving the way and being so passionate about something that, you know, you very easily could have left, right? We all work in yachting, and it could be very easy that you want to go chase some other get-rich project, or, you know, maximize profits. And yeah, I'm not going to take a loss. I'm actually doing something good for the planet. So it's great that you're pricing competitively, and just how grounded you are about the topic, right? And knowing that you're going the right way, and that it might take a little bit, it might take a lot of educating for your customers, but it is what we need to do as crew. And I think that's really, really commendable, and it's really inspiring. So thank you guys for, you know, all of the information that you've given. Where can people find you? Basically oceanform.com and ethicalyachtwear.com, and social media.
Social media, all of the social medias. We're actually going to start doing a bit of TikTok, which is a bit foreign to me, but we'll try it. So yeah, no, we're all on social media, and obviously our website. Yeah, you can find us there.
Awesome.
Yeah,
and Lauren?
Yeah, exactly. ethicalyachtwear.com, and the social media, LinkedIn's a really good one. But yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I think they're about to shut the curtains on us, because I think we've run over, but thank you so much, guys. And we'll have the next session coming up soon. Stay tuned.
Cool.
Thanks
so much. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, we're taking our 2-minute break, and we'll be back soon. As Ugo said, he's moderating the next one. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Oh my God. Welcome back. Get ready for our last session on eco-friendly products for yachts. We're welcoming you back, Ugo, as he said previously. Right now, we're going to be diving into the world of sustainable cleaning solutions tailored for the marine environment. Its yachts continue to embrace eco-friendly practices. Understanding the impact of cleaning products on both the vessel and the ocean is crucial. Discover how to choose and implement cleaning products that not only meet high standards of cleanliness, but also minimize environmental harm. So it is my pleasure to bring back Hugo and our panelists for the session.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for that. As a deck crew member, I'm really, really excited to hear from both of these companies. I've got Stu Can, I believe,
Carnes.
Correct?
Yep.
Carnes. Okay, so he's here with WASHDOWN, and then I have Keith Kirby from Nature Safe. I'll give both of you a chance to just give a little bit about yourself and your company, but I think from my perspective and from anyone on yachts, it's really, really exciting to see that we're making changes in some of the products that we're using, because both there's so much stuff that's hazardous, even to the crew that are on board, let alone to the environment once they start seeping into the waterways. So Stu, do you want to tell us a little bit more about WASHDOWN, your goal, how that whole thing started, really?
Sure. Thanks, Hugo. So, and I know there's sometimes on these forums, like especially a live chat, when you're doing things very last minute, there can be a little bit of confusion. So unfortunately, Leah from WASHDOWN couldn't make it today. I'm stepping in. I am CEO of Squall Marine. We also create eco-friendly cleaning products. I can't speak to WASHDOWN. I wish I could, because they do fantastic work, and I'm excited to connect with them in the near future. But I started this business back in November. I'm working actually more within the boating community, and I've been touching on the yachting community in recent months, creating eco-friendly cleaning products, protection products, and soon to be released restoration products as well.
Perfect. Okay. No, sorry about that. Yeah, I see the switch happen between sessions. Okay, so you're here with Squall Marine, and it's great. It's great to see that you're starting to get a footprint in yachting as well. So I don't have notes on you, but I'm sure we can, on the fly, we can start chatting and riffing about certain things. Sure. Keith, do you want to give us a little introduction to Nature Safe, and what your background is and how you got started in all of this?
All right. Well, my background is I come from renewable energy, developing wind and solar farms. Moved from Cape Town to Split in Croatia onto the Adriatic, and saw all the cleaning products going straight to sea, and thought, no, this is not right. Let's see what we can do to make a difference. And being a sailor in a boat, I just totally passionate about the ocean and making a difference. So we launched 18 months ago, and making small steps, but every day upwards and onwards.
Fantastic. From what I saw, a lot of your portfolio is also very, very affordable, and you've got quite a wide range. You've got everything from glass cleaners to different kinds of soaps, correct?
That's right. We focused quite a lot on the internal, with one or two products externally. The holy grail, I think, comes to a teak cleaner, and a lot of the paint manufacturers won't guarantee their paint unless you're using their products. But we're working on something quite unique, because it has a degree of hydrophobic properties in it. So, watch the space. Hopefully early in the new year, we will be launching a one-stop teak product.
That's fantastic. Again, as an avid user of some of these products, I'd love to see what it is, because there are a billion teak products on the market, but I think there's very, very small niche of the ones that broadcast themselves as eco-friendly. I think Eco Teak is probably one of the few ones that I can think of off the top of my head, and not everyone has great results from it. So that'll be really, really interesting, and I'll be excited to see what you have there.
So a lot of R&D, a lot of testing, and oh no, that didn't work. Back to the drawing board, and then you've got to work with it for a good few months, leave it in the sun, and see what the results are. So it's trial and error, back to the drawing board a few times. But you know what? We're on a mission, so hopefully we can bring something out of the bag.
Amazing. And Stu, what's a little bit about your portfolio? Where is your bread and butter, and what do you specialize in?
We actually have a hydrophobic ceramic spray coating that is our best seller, followed by a vinyl and trim UV protectant and mold and mildew preventative. So in the full portfolio is only 4 products. We originally launched with 3. The idea is to keep that product line to a minimum, We notice a lot more of the traditional cleaning product brands have a large portfolio, and some of that is often based on trend of just certain types of buzzwords or things that you can change up on a label when you have a very similar type of product, but to just create more of an offering. So we try to avoid that. And we also just try to make it easy for the consumer to choose products that work really well. And some of these types of formulas work well on many surfaces. So you don't necessarily need a unique formula for every surface. And what I think is beneficial to having fewer products is obviously you have less packaging as a result. So that's the idea, is just find formulas that work for a number of applications, limit the amount of packaging as a result, and make sure that the formulas are eco-friendly in nature when they're being used on or off the water.
Awesome. And Keith, just to give everyone a bit of perspective, because I think to everyone that isn't a boater or isn't on a yacht, you know, it might just, okay, one product's a little bit less harmful than another one, but what are the potential harms and risks for, you know, what's commonplacely and used in the industry right now, and why is a product like what you're putting out so beneficial?
All right, Hugo. I think there's a lot of, or many people don't understand the products they're using that well. You know, you get your entry-level guys at 18, 19 getting onto a boat, and they often use the wrong product for the wrong job.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're in the super yacht market. We're also in the charter market here in Croatia and Greece and Turkey. And a lot of that washing of the boat ends up, that wash down goes straight to sea. And, you know, typically a lot of those are harsh petrochemicals. You know, your household detergents that get used on boats, and that's the problem. Our products, we have focused on the formulations. So the bulk of our formulations are in accordance with OECD 301B. A lot of jargon, but basically we tested to be biodegradable in 28 days. So at the end of that period, there is no harm. There's nothing left in the water to cause any damage. Now, the majority of our products are also EcoCert, which requires a minimum level of natural ingredients. And because of that, they're slightly harder, and a lot of formulations. We get audited every year, and so it's quite onerous. But you know, at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do.
Right. And Stu, would you say that? How does price play into all this? Because obviously we can be in an ivory towers and talk about how great it is for the environment, but the boat owner is usually going to go with just the bottom line. So how do you stay competitive in that market, or have you seen that being some pullback?
I think in the boating community, price matters a lot more, right? And in the super yacht community, not so much. Early in this business, for me, it's about making sure that the product is in as many hands as possible, just because I believe in it and I believe in the mission behind it. So I haven't, set a specific price that's necessarily highly profitable in the early days. I think it's just a matter of making sure that people are aware that the product exists, and then that you're cleaning without compromise. So just because something is eco-friendly doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be weak. I think that's one of the misconceptions, is that, the strong stuff always works and it doesn't really matter what it is. The idea is I need to get this rust off my boat at all costs.
Right.
And so I also think that we're starting to change as consumers. We're just starting to change our perspective on cheap is better. I think we know that paying a few extra dollars for something that's more responsible is worth the extra price. And if it works, if it's high, if it has a high efficacy, then I think it's worth the price. So for us, we don't really spend a lot of time discussing price. We definitely don't want to race to the bottom either. We want to make sure that we're not just competing with low prices, because that's not really part of the mission. So that would be my answer to that. I don't think price is necessarily a factor, especially in the yachting community. For boaters, I think it's becoming less and less of a factor. It's just about making sure that the products work while also making sure that they're safe.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point regarding just the perception that people have that stronger is better. I mean, I've worked with so many people that they just put harsh chemicals on something to get the marks off, and then you go, well, what about the paintwork? You just aged and destroyed this paint. Well, you were trying to get this little piece of rust off by putting some hydrochloric acid or something on the paint.
Right, but they can't see that in the short term, right? And I think that's part
right.
of the issue, is that strong, non-eco-friendly products do work. They work too well, and right, and for such a long time they've worked. So there's been no reason to really question them until recent years, where we have all of this data to back up the need for products like these. And I think that's the thing, right? There's an educational aspect to this, to make sure that people really understand that that SDS sheets really matter, safety data sheets, to look into those when you're ordering new product, and that things like acetic acid and sodium hypochlorite, like, to know what they mean, right? To know what that means, because it's never going to be listed as we have bleach in this product or something like that. Right. And so really understanding what those chemicals are is not, I think it's the responsibility of the consumer, but even more so, it's our responsibility as a brand to communicate that out and get that messaging out there. And that's where we really spend a lot of time on our social media platforms, versus just showing off how beautiful the packaging is or how great the product works, to really educate the consumer on what they're putting on the boat and in the water indirectly.
Yeah, that's excellent. Educating the consumer. I'm sure there's a lot of usefulness, and a lot of people that are opening their eyes to, well, really a lot that they didn't know. Like you said, bleach or other harsh chemicals being in a product. I think sometimes people are really naive, and they think, well, if it's in a bottle and it's being sold, it's probably okay to use, and they don't really think twice. I was told to use it for this job, so I'm just going to go and use it. And I think that it's really, really good that you're educating at the same time. Keith, do you find in your pricing model, has that been a pushback, or in a similar sense, you're trying to get it out, and then later on we can talk more about the profitability?
Right. Okay. On the pricing, yes. Depending on the market level you're working with, super yachts, they are more focused on ensuring the product is in the right place at the right time, and they don't have a lot of time in port and things like that. So there's less pushback. On the charter market, where every penny counts, there is a lot of concern, but we're addressing that. You go into Turkey now, if you're washing your boat down with toxic chemicals, you can get fined. I heard of a boat that a friend was on recently, got a €2,000 fine because there were soap suds in the water and they couldn't prove that they were using environmentally friendly products. And this is becoming a real problem. So, when you start getting major fines, I think there'll be a switch. So it depends on the market as to what the price level is. But we're working on trying to shift from a ready-to-use product to a concentrate. Now, the idea there is that, if we're transporting a concentrate from Split to Barcelona, 1,500 kilometers, there's a lot of CO2, and 95% of the product is water. So let's go with a concentrate. If it's in a powder or a tablet form, well, then we're actually even saving single-use plastic. So we're trying to move with the times, trying to get smarter, but it's all R&D, and we're getting there slowly but slowly.
No, that's great, and that's a really good point too. The fact of using concentrate, because one thing is very easy when the yacht's in Fort Lauderdale sitting there and you can just run out to the shop, which again, like you said, burns CO2, and it's so wasteful, but it's easy to do. And, in a frantic pace, we're all running around provisioning and doing whatever. But to your point, if you're in Turkey, if you're getting things shipped from one country to another, that's when it does matter. And that's when, having the concentrate, as long as the crew are educated to mix it with water or, DIY it, I think that's a really good point. I mean, I remember even with teak products, to go off what you were using, man, 1 gallon of teak product goes very, very short when you're on a 90 meter and you open up the cabinet where we keep all of them. And it's a giant room full of jugs. One, what if they, the just storing that stuff in the heat, it's going to start breaking down. There's so much wasted product, but two, it's just so much space. I see there's so many products now coming in powder form, and it's a godsend, because on a super yacht, even though people don't believe it, we're limited on space. So aside from the eco side, that's also one of the best ways I would imagine to market your stuff. Hey, it's going to take a fraction of the size, and it's going to be, virtually just waiting there for you. It's not going to go bad. What would both of you say? I'll start with you, Stu. What would you say is the biggest pushback you get when people don't decide to buy? Is it because we already kind of tackled price? Is it more of like, we're already used to this product, we're going that way? Is it some distributors also, they don't have room for more people in their catalog? Or what are you seeing? What's one of the obstacles that you're facing in terms of getting it in the hands of people?
I think it depends on the solution itself. With the ceramic coatings, and I think those probably more apply to the smaller, boating community. Than yachts. So I know yachts are painted every few years, right? So not as concerned about that.
The good ones, at least.
Right. But yeah, I think it goes back to education, price, like you said. That there's a pushback there because certain products like UV protectants, companies like Starbright, more traditional like legacy companies can offer them at a much lower price. I'm personally bootstrapping this business, owning and operating it completely myself with no outside investment. So there's obviously challenges to compete on price. But it's education too, really understanding how to use these products and what their capabilities are and what their capabilities are not just yet. I think is one of the big pieces of pushback that we receive is, hey, I use this product and it didn't do this particular thing that I wanted it to do. So managing expectations through education, whether it's on the website or on listings, we're available on Amazon. Just being really cautious, careful, and considerate about how we're talking about the products and educating the consumer, I think is probably the best way to remedy that. But yeah, that's definitely a pushback that we receive.
Perfect. And Keith, what are you seeing as one of the pushbacks for your side?
I agree with you, Stu. The lack of education, lack of understanding. The super yachts, the yachts are in so many different marinas all over the world. And it's awareness of what they're buying. So if somebody's been using product X for 10 years, to get them to try something that's now eco, I'll be using this. I understand how it works. I've got limited time, and I think the time pressure has a very, very big impact on people, because they don't want to try 2 or 3 different products. So I think what's happening now, the Water Revolution Foundation came out with the Environmental Crew Guidelines, and this is a wonderful step forward. So the awareness is out there, but there's a lot of jargon, there's a lot of understanding that has to be had, and I think it's a work in progress. I think if we look a few years forward, the environment will become foremost in everyone's minds. I think it's starting, but people don't know where to start. So this education process is incredibly important. We put some products on a 77-meter yacht about 3 months ago, and they love it, but they'd already bought for the entire season. It comes down to, all right, so 2025, hopefully they'll come calling. But there's so many different moving parts. Some people buy from their provisioning companies, some from chandlers, some online. So the distribution becomes quite an important aspect of the entire process. But for us, we've got to become known so people start asking for the product. So it's step by step. And like Stu, we've also bootstrapped from the beginning, and it's tough, but we're getting there. And I think we're making a difference.
I will say, I think there's an opportunity for the yachting community to kind of pioneer that, making the environment a priority. I think the aspiration of the 18-foot boat owner is 25, right? And the 25-foot
Right.
boat owner is 40 feet, et cetera. And so, and similar, I often go back to Tesla's approach to releasing the Roadster and then the Model S before releasing more affordable versions for the average American. So that idea of creating the aspiration and then opening that up to a broader audience is why I'm so excited to be part of this panel today and part of this discussion, because I think that there's real opportunity to pioneer, from the top down as an approach. So.
No, that's a really, really good point. And I fall victim too to what you said. The distribution is probably the biggest hurdle, because I think in terms of buying deck cleaning products, very few times that I've been slapped in the wrist for spending too much, or even an owner coming back and saying, well, this isn't reasonable, plus or minus some. But like you said, Amazon, what chandleries are nearby, even the books that they put out with all of the products, like we're all used to so many of the famous names, right? Starbright, like you said, Flitz for this, use this kind of wax, that you just start penciling it in without thinking twice. So it is about educating the consumer, and just, if you can get any allies and get into those books, and once people start using your product, like you said, then it'll speak for itself. But I can imagine at the beginning, it's just the hardest thing, the awareness. What's the key for the marketing for the product? Obviously, it's the environment, number one, what the biodegradability at 28 days. Do you also market how it's less harmful for, the human element, the crew, or is that part of the pitch, or is it mostly just the conversation revolves around the actual environment?
No, we've got to focus on basically three elements. The yacht itself, by not being harsh, by getting the job done, that you protect the longevity of the yacht. The crew, very important. You don't have to wear gloves or protective gear. So the health of the crew, Leah is very strong on VOCs, which is volatile organic compounds. So you breathe these in, and this is a big no-no. So you've got crew working in tight confines, and they're breathing in all these noxious fumes. And then there's the environment. So, the environment comes in many shapes and sizes. You've got the ocean itself, you've got the transportation, and then you've got plastic waste. So we focus on those three pillars. Obviously, we've got to get the balance right. And that's what we focused on. It's got to be practical. Because if it's complicated, it's not going to fly. But it's the yacht, it's the crew, and it's the environment.
Yeah, I know when you look at some of the MSDSs, it's stuff of nightmares. So it's really good that you're also promoting it for the sake and health of the crew. And Stu, do you find with the ceramic, is that, well, I don't want to ask, is it harmful? But do you find that part of your marketing is also leaning into, hey, our products aren't terrible for you, they're also not going to cause damage to the boat, and they're also going to do well by the environment?
Yeah, it's similar approach to Keith's. I think one of the main things is kind of breaking that, like you said, the SDS sheets, you go in there, it's like a house of mirrors. You don't know which way is up. It's really confusing. It's written in a language you don't understand, right? So kind of breaking that down for people and helping them understand what some of that terminology means is really important, because, and it's also, I think, important for all of us to transfer those SDS sheets into material that's a bit easier to absorb. And that can be done through infographics or redesigning the SDS sheet for consumer facing content. I think that's really important. And I think when it comes to the environment, unfortunately, humans feel a bit like one step removed in a lot of cases. And this is how, right, the politics come into play and things like that. The reality is that in our day-to-day lives, we don't prioritize that. Most of us don't prioritize that every moment of the day with everything that we do. So the idea of creating content that helps people relate back to how it affects them, sometimes that selfish aspect, I think is really an important aspect in getting the messaging out there. So like, for example, talking about PFAS and how they don't only affect the environment, but they ultimately will affect you and food that you eat. and how, as that buildup goes up the food chain, it actually compounds. And so it's a very serious problem for humans as well. And when you relate it back to the human issues that come from all of this, people start going, oh, maybe I don't want that to happen, right? And they start taking it a bit more seriously. So that's an approach that we've been taking recently.
For everyone back home, what was PFAS again? I remember it's a buildup, it gets into the food chain through the animals, but what does it stand for again?
Help me, Keith.
It's basically all the phosphates, what they do, I might not know if it's the poly, but the phosphates, they're not aquatic toxic, but what they do is they create a lack of oxygen. And that has a really detrimental effect on products. They've also, I think in the States, you are limited to 0.5%. Anything above that is banned now. So it's really a no-no to use those. So it's really understanding what the SDS says.
Yeah, I have to. I love being transparent about this kind of stuff. This is not coming off the top of my head. I specifically pulled this up on the side because I think it's important, whether I know the information or not in the moment, that I'm sharing it with everybody. So polyfluoroalkyl substances, right? So they're basically synthetic chemicals that are man-made that build up in the environment. They're called forever chemicals. They don't ever go away. They can't be absorbed in the environment. And that's the main issue, is that they can build up in fish, in different microorganisms. They just compound over time. They never go away. So the more of them that go into the ocean, the more of them stay in the ocean over time and continue to pollute more and more. And then the food that you eat as a result contains PFAS, and those end up inside you, and those don't necessarily digest either. So we're all ingesting them the more that they go into the environment, and you'll see less and less products having those in the future. And it's only until, I believe, the early 2000s that we even started studying this in marine environments, and that's a major issue, right? Is that we don't have long-term studies. That's always a scary thing. So we're paying close attention to that. Our products, we're making sure, are labeled as PFAS free, because I see that as becoming something that people are going to look for more and more in the near future as more of that information comes out in this community.
Right. Perfect. And that's excellent that you looked that up, because I think a lot of people will benefit off knowing the full depth of it, because with a lot of these terms, whether it's the pro green or just, ambivalence, there's so many terminology that you sometimes have to feel like you're a scientist to really understand what the hell is going on and what's going into the stuff that you're using, right? If you're at the bottom of the food chain as a deckhand or a stew and you're just handed a spray bottle, you're just going to point and use it. And it can be really, really, like you said, removed from it, where you don't actually see how you're affecting anybody else.
Right.
Would you say that the least green part of your company is the delivery and getting it into the hands of the consumer? Or what do you think is the least efficient or least green part of the whole operation? I'll start with you, Stu.
Packaging is tough, right? Like how do you store? And I think, Keith, what you guys are doing with powders and tabs and experimenting with that is incredible. It's really inspiring. It's something that is a challenge for us at the moment, but something that's really inspiring. I think, the single-use plastics are a challenge, right? That's the standard for storing liquids. And so if you're operating with liquids, you're not putting them in a paper bag. You can't do that. Right? Recycled paper. You can use recycled plastics, and I believe Leah is doing that with WASHDOWN, has a recycled plastic multi-use bottle. We encourage our consumers, it's on the label of the bottle too, that it's a refillable bottle and they can use it over and over again. Our products are highly concentrated as well. So they can be diluted. A lot of detailers and boat owners have their own spray bottles already that they dilute products in to whether it's to save money or to be more environmentally conscious. So that helps. But yeah, I think for us, packaging is something that we're really focused on and that we'd like to continue to improve on.
Awesome. And Keith, what's your retort to that one as well?
It's the packaging, it's the single-use plastic, and definitely the logistics. So, we're doing a lot of work on understanding the CO2 used to move 500 ml bottle of water, 500 or 1,500 kilometers. What does that mean? What's the implication? And so that's our focus is now is to reduce away from the ready to use into the tablet or powder form. One of the problem areas there is obviously your glass cleaner. Now, glass cleaner needs to have a very small degree of alcohol in it in order to evaporate as you are cleaning. Otherwise, you're going to take 3 or 4 times as long. And if you don't do it straight away, you end up with streaks. Now, can you imagine yachts with streaky windows or streaky chrome or stainless steel? So it has to have a degree of alcohol in. And this is the conundrum, because I don't think there is a product of concentrate alcohol in powder form.
Right.
So that's something it's a part of the holy grail, but if you think about things long enough, maybe something drops. Maybe there's a way around it.
I would say that's where protective sealants come into play, potentially, right?
Yep.
Windows on super yachts, a lot bigger than some of the that we're working with, right? So it takes a lot longer and you need a lot more of it to do it. But I think the benefit in the long term is once you've applied a ceramic coating or sealant to glass, you have less cleaning that you need to do. It's much easier to clean. And so you can kind of cut down on, right? There's a balance in an ebb and flow to these things. So you can cut down on the use of glass cleaners as a result of just having that protection on to begin with. And it requires, it's in every, depending on the weather and the location, right? It's probably in every 4 to 6 month type of application, which is a lot less often.
Right. What would you say is your biggest motivator to keep going? And I'll do it for both of you. I'll start with Keith. So what to fight the trend, to fight the current, right? And pioneer products that are green, like you said, that are at least at the beginning also less, less profitable. And also just have to pour in R&D to continue to reinvent the wheel. What stops you from fizzling out, or what keeps you moving forward? Keith?
I think, living where I do, across from a marina, walking every day, going out on my boat, cleaning it, washing it down, and understanding whatever I do ends up in the sea directly. And, we have a good storm, and then around the boat, there's all this plastic waste and everything else. And it's just, we can make a difference. And if we can leave some form of legacy that to our children, we only here as caretakers for a short period of time. And back in South Africa, we love the game reserves. We go to the bush often, and we nature lovers. So it's sort of been ingrained in us from just after we could walk of being in nature. And the ocean, growing up, windsurfing, sailing, boating, it's just an extension of all of that. So I'm just, it's just something that you look out and you say, wow, how cool is this place? How beautiful is it?
That's awesome. That's very well said. And Stu, what's motivating you?
It's similar. I try not to get emotional when I talk about this. Like I grew up going out to Montauk in the summertime here in New York, and my grandfather had a fishing boat, and those are some of my favorite memories from my childhood. I'm sharing those types of memories with my kids now and my wife. My immediate family, we didn't grow up with boats, so that was a really special time for me. And we live in a small hamlet on the river side of the Metro North tracks in New York. So we live right on the Hudson River that has a long history of industrial pollution, and it's really come a long way. And now we still people that won't swim in the Hudson. We anchor up and swim all the time with the kids and really enjoy it, and it's only improving. And so that's something that I want to play a role in as somebody who lives in this community and benefits so much from it. I want to share that with others.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you can also see the results of what a lot of people, a multitude of people over a couple of generations are doing. I think that's a really good factor in keeping you motivated, because for some people, I can't see the difference that I'm making. I can't see the impact. But you've already seen some polluted waters turn the other way, so that's really, really comforting. So let's say I'm listening to this stream. I'm maybe a deckhand, a lead, a stew, someone that doesn't have the decision-making potential to choose your product, but that's really intrigued or wants to just make an impact on the boat. Maybe not so much as getting them to buy the product, but what are some small wins that crew can be doing today, maybe with the stuff that's already there, or at least in talking to the superiors and making an argument for being cleaner? What are some easy tips for people to be more clean with what they have in the environment that they're in? Specifically super yachts, if you want to talk boating, Stu, I know that might be easier, but we can do that. If you want to start off, Keith.
I'd say is to be inquiring, to ask questions why. Ask to see a safety data sheet, try and understand what it's about. Say, can we do a comparison? Make suggestions. I think people must not be afraid to ask questions and ask for additional insight. And I think this is the future. Read a lot. You've got time. There's a lot out there on the web. I think heads of department are now starting to say, right, we need to do something, but what? We don't know how to do it. So, I think just question, ask, and get informed.
Perfect. Stu?
I think that's a fantastic answer, Keith. I think being informed is the responsibility of the crew or the consumer. And I think for us, the major thing, and this is a takeaway from this conversation too. It always helps to bounce things off other folks and have that back and forth to kind of come up with new ideas. But I think redesigning the safety data sheet to be more consumer facing for companies like ours is incredibly important. I don't think I've actually seen that done well by anybody yet. And
I haven't seen that either.
Right, I've looked at plenty of it, and it's such an easy thing to do. I mean, relatively speaking, but if you have someone who's great at designing infographics, you can find them so easily, right? Like you can find them on Fiverr. There's a lot of different places to find them. So inexpensive. I do a lot of that work myself, so that's my plan for the next week is figuring out how to redesign the safety data sheets to be more digestible.
That's amazing. That's a really good point.
I think that's really important. But yeah, I think asking questions, asking why is, works in so many categories. Just, trying to question and understand everything to the best of your ability, I think is really important. So that's a great answer, Keith.
I think you.
Okay.
So regarding the safety data sheet, I think there's a fair amount. Well, in the EU, there's a lot of legislation on that. So I agree with you changing it, but you've got your 16 sections, and it can be done better.
As is, right? I think I will still maintain the same safety data sheets that I have for those who are looking to read it that are literate in that, right? But then for even something as simple as I'm big on social media education and using that, like Hugo, what you do is incredible. And I think there's a place there for all of this conversation as well, like talking about these kind of products. But even for social content, things like that, creating infographics specifically intended for consumers who wouldn't necessarily even ask to see a safety data sheet. A lot of them don't even know to ask for that, right? So I think just getting them to even know that exists is important.
Yeah. And I think what you were saying before about how I'm going to go back and double back. Now that I know the name Squall, I'll go ahead and look you up on socials. But like you were saying, especially with so many younger and younger crew getting in, and, as we all continue to age, like the socials are here to stay, right? And that's the quickest way to get into someone's hand and ultimately, their head or their heart. So I think you're on the right track saying creating content that is educating these crew, because the deckhand of today is the captain of tomorrow. So if they start seeing and understanding and digesting this information in a way that they can understand it, because they're not a scientist and they're not looking at the safety data sheets from that perspective, they just need to know, hey, how do I use this product, and is it safe, or what do I need to look out for? And if you can make that in a digestible way and introduce them to it and educate them, they're going to be able to make those decisions. Because I think almost none of us want to use a chemical that's going to burn a hole in our hand and also start killing fish and also get into the water supply or the food supply. But like you said, if we're removed and no one's really educating, then we're all in this just race to who can get the cheapest products onto the yacht so we can go on to the next thing. So I think socials for sure are a really, really good way of getting in front of people.
I think media in general.
Yeah.
I think media in general, right? Social media is important. I think, and I know this community has different feelings about Below Deck, but you know, on a show like that, it's their responsibility as well, right? Get that messaging out there. It can be, you know, it doesn't necessarily even need to be product placement, but I think making sure that messaging is making its way into every aspect of the community is really important.
Yeah, I agree. Well, what's the just in a quick couple minutes, we're wrapping up now. If you want to tell us what's the future, the next couple of years look like for each of you, and where people can find you if they're interested in tuning in or buying some of your products, or just you know, a healthy look at what alternatives they should be using. Stu, if you want to start.
Sure. I think for us, I think we're looking to get into like short-term restoration types of products, and I always think of it. This is going to be an unpopular thing to say, probably, but I love doing this live because it makes everybody nervous, right, Hugo? Like, what's he going to say? I think like gateway drug, right? So it's like I think you need a lead generator, a very specific type of product to get the average person who one is not educated, or two doesn't care, or maybe three focuses on price to try a product that works really, really well. And what I notice is that at least for the boating community, oxidation is a big problem that they're always trying to solve. And they're trying to solve it with products that aren't necessarily the best for the boat or for the environment. And so creating products that give them like long-term gratification when it comes to repairing that problem, I think will get their foot in the door more. And that's something that we've been working on, but I want to make sure it's right before we release it. A lot of these other products work really well, and they've been around for a long time in one way or another, and we've been able to modify them to be more environmentally safe. But I think that's going to be a major push for us over the next 365 days is releasing a restoration product in the form of a compound polish, like one step. That helps get them in the door. And again, I think coming out of this conversation today, taking SDS sheet information and making it a little bit more easy to absorb for those folks is going to be a big push this year. And that goes, Keith, goes for you and anybody else, Leah, if you're watching or watch after this. If anybody wants help with that initiative, I think, as small businesses, I think it's really important to help each other, right? Rising tide raises all ships is the old cliche. But I think it's important to help each other. So you'll have my assistance anytime you want to approach that. When it comes to content creation or anything else, please reach out. Be happy to help.
Fantastic. Keith?
Super. So I think we're just going to change the model a little bit. Instead of the tripod of yacht, crew, and environment, we have to add education. And yeah, okay, sort of jokes aside, I think going forward, we have to keep looking at, for us, distribution, getting it to the people, getting people aware of it. So that's our focus for the next year ahead. We are fortunate. We will be going to the Monaco Yacht Show. We have a small stand in the Sustainability Hub. So we'll be showcasing our products there and then informing the super yacht crews of what we're about and so on. So that's the next sort of 6 months to a year ahead for us.
Amazing. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for all the knowledge that you've shared. I know this can be, for some people, it could have been a very dry subject, but I think we've made it very digestible and easy to understand why these things are so important. And it's really, really inspiring to see that you're both passionate about it. And like you were saying, Stu, that you want to be able to provide this for the next generation, both your kids, but Keith, you're also saying just for everyone, because I think it's very well said, we are the caretakers of this world, and what we're doing in this industry is going to leave an impact. There's so many studies that have been shown that there's a lot going on in the water that we're not fully understanding based on the last 20, 30, 50 years. And it's good to start trying to turn the tide on that. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And I commend you for also the next generation of deckhands and everyone on board that's going to have less marks, less bruises, less burning sensations due to your product. So well done.
Super. Thank you, Hugo. Thank you, Stu. Thanks, Andrea, and thanks, Ria. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, thanks everyone. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
This was not a boring session at all, I have to say. And that's really thanks to all the ones involved here. Much more interesting about cleaning products than I ever would have imagined. So we really appreciate your time. We're now wrapping up the forum. So I'm going to say goodbye to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you.
Bye.
Well, guys, I am very appreciative for joining us and viewing and taking the time to learn about sustainable topics that really affect the yachting industry. We have been beyond grateful and beyond fortunate with the amazing moderators and speakers that took their time to talk about their subjects and really explain thoroughly what they're doing, what are their projects, and how it's affecting the marine industry, and even how yacht crew have a big say in how they can have an impact themselves and have a voice and help us get to the right destination.
And I have to add in that we need to thank Ocean R, who is the sponsor of this conference. And due to age, I need glasses, so they're coming on. But Ocean R, an amazing company. They are all about sustainability. They have 3 key pillars: people, product, and planet. They have, to date, 1.6 million plastic bottles prevented from entering the oceans by using recycled polyester fabric. So they go right in line with our eco-yachting crew wear, essentially. So definitely check them out. We're going to provide all of their information, of course, when we cut up the segments and put them all up on YouTube and give you all the information. And one thing that I'm not very good at doing, and Andrea has forced me to, is talk about Yachting International Radio. A lot of people sort of wonder what exactly is Yachting International Radio. And I'm not really good at explaining anything about myself or anything about my company. I'm very, very good at selling everybody else on the face of the planet, just never me. So I actually did a chat GPT last night, and I said, what is Yachting International Radio? And the stuff that it came out with, I was like, damn, that's good. I'm pretty good. So just to give you a quick overview, we were born 6 years ago to give a voice to those often overlooked, but who are leading the charge for a better industry, environment, and world. We are a podcast hosting platform that showcases the yachting industry through the unique lenses of our hosts, whether it's businesses, social issues, or change makers. We help bring these perspectives to the world. In this digital age, podcasts are booming, but not everybody knows how to edit or distribute their content, and that's where we come in. You create your show, your concept, your voice, and send us the raw footage. We handle the editing and distribution, and then we make it easy for you to share your message with the world, and that's what we're all about. I set it up because I have 3 children and now a grandchild, and so many people in this world under the age of, I would say, 30, and some older, such as myself, but we really do care about the next generation. We really do care where this world is going and what, honestly, a shit show we've created with what we see here right now. And that's my generation's fault and the generation prior. The people that are taking a look at their future and their children's future, those are the people that really have an investment on how the generations after us are going to be able to live in what we've created. And none of them seem to have much of a voice. So I thought the best legacy that I can leave my children is a better world. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to take what I have learned in my life and what I have built in my life and my career, and I'm going to apply that to not only reaching the 0.001% that are capable of making that change, but by reaching all of those people that work in that industry that are able to have a voice and express that change. So that's why I are.
Well, they did the same for me, and I'm very thankful for Ria and her platform, Yachting International Radio. I already had Yacht Dame, But Ria was like, why don't you create a podcast? And it opened up so many doors for me. So internally grateful for Ria and the amount of work she actually puts behind the scenes. Like that's really behind the work that she actually.
Do you know what, Andrea? I wanted to mention that, we started in 2019, and I think it was 2020 that I really wanted to have a podcast about women in yachting. And I contacted you. And you were the first to say, okay, yeah, let's do Yacht Femme. And so you were one of, I think Karine Rayson was my first podcast host. And I think you were my second with your Women in Yachting, Yacht Femme. And it's just grown. And you've done absolutely phenomenally well. You have contacted and brought together so many women, highlighted so many absolutely stellar women in the industry, and done a great job at it. So I have to say thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Well, if you hadn't been there first, Yachting wouldn't exist. Yacht Femme wouldn't exist, the podcast. But so thank you again. We are very, very thankful everyone was here, showed up, learned, and I couldn't be more, appreciative of all the DMs that we have been receiving, thanking us for this forum. And just sharing how much you guys have learned, because this is exactly why we did the forum. So we can't wait to see you guys soon. Meanwhile, we don't have another scheduled forum, but if you go to Yachting International social media, you will see there's daily content surrounding not only the podcasts that are hosted by Yachting International Radio, but there's also tons of news daily about the yachting industry. So go and follow.
Yeah, and I have to give a great big shout out to every single one of our panelists and moderators over the past 2 days, yourself included, Andrea.